Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
Yeah, I don't think this is the guy either. But what are the odds that they're scooping people up outside of this liquor store?
Is that correct?
That's not him. I don't think that's him, Mark. I think they have got the wrong guy there.
The wrong guy. The dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit.
There we go. Audio up. That always helps. I was going to mix up the sound a little bit. Playing it.
By gosh, make them work for it. By gosh, go down and fight them.
I was kick back, taking it easy.
Yeah, you can. In front of the Walmart.
Playing all the sound effects this afternoon.
You especially won't go to court if it's bullshit charges because you get them thrown out.
Squirrel!
I'm not a camel.
Yeah, all the buttons work. I'm testing them. They're all working.
I'm not a cat. I doubt it. Are we going to address subject matter jurisdiction?
Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Okay, we're done playing with the buttons. Sorry. I got a little food in me, and I just got a little frisky with the button panel over here. So that sounded really wrong. We don't need to replay that. Let's pretend that didn't happen. Okay, here we go. We have a new offender. Jill, I'm not sure. I don't think this is your first time because I think your profile pic looks familiar in the first offender category. Basically, we've seen you on the post office wall before, is what I'm saying. You've been first in chat before, I believe, at least one time. So this was a repeat offense for you, which raises the punishment, but the penalty is actually the same. Internet ownership for the rest of the day is the responsibility, the punishment that we sentence you with for the remainder of the day. Sorry, I'm tripping over my words. I barely finished the wheat thin that was in my mouth before I went live. I have the box of them right here in case I get a little hungry. You don't want to see me hungry. Then we have a repeat of this morning happen. Thank you very much, Jill, for being first in chat. I know it was close. It was very close. Mystic Mama also was like it was within Olympic stopwatch timers could not have detected the difference. They were so close. We had a couple of you all exact same time. Leslie Ann comes in right off the bat with 10 gifted memberships. Thank you so much, Leslie. Super support right off the bat. We've had some amazing gifters this morning. I don't know why my chat is not working. There it is. Let's see. I didn't read off the 20 that won earlier from Greeners, but let's do this one here. Tracy Ames, Miss M, Karen Powers, Erica W, Cindy Grady, Kimberly Elms, Marty Lane Smith, Megan Thomas, Glam Mam, Jen Pookie. I think that's all. I think that's the 10. I think I read them all. Thank you very much, Leslie Ann, for that. That is super generous and super nice. And on all those people have you to thank. That is awesome. All right. Thanks to our wonderful mods who are here keeping everything copacetic this afternoon as we get ready to start. Now, remember, when we start court, which should start any minute now, and we've got the audio turned up, as soon as it happens, I'll bring it to you. But we're not starting with the jury there. We're starting, and this is expected. There's going to be some motions made where the defense is basically going to say, Your Honor, the state's finished their case. We don't think they met the bar. We don't think they proved any of the elements of any of the charges. And we've seen this even when the state has done that. But in this particular case, I think they've got a pretty good argument for them. So I wonder how much credence the judge will, or how much the judge will listen to that. If there is any evidence that they've presented to show that they've met that, then it has to go to the jury, and that the judge obviously has to look at this motion and the whole situation in the light most favorable to the state, in this case, with this motion. So I don't expect it to be dismissed. I don't expect the charges to be dismissed, especially based on what we've seen from the judge so far. I'm looking at the objection counter, right here. That's a lot of times that the state has objected, and the judge has sided with the state. So I don't expect him to grant any of the motions the state makes here. So, but it's procedural. It preserves the record and everything else so they can move on with appeals. But anyway, so that's coming up first. We have that starting in just, I think in about 10 minutes. I wanted to tell you yesterday after I went metal detecting last week, it was in my blood. I just wanted to go again. Looking everywhere for the charger cord for my metal detector, which I thought I had forgotten at home, and it turns out I had actually just packed it into a little pocket of one of my metal detecting bags. I found it yesterday and charged up my detector, went out with my kids, took them to the park, and I did a quick tot lot sweep where I just detected the wood chip area around where the kids play. Believe it or not, this is areas I found syringes in other parks. Not this park. I don't like my kids play in parks where I find syringes, but I have found syringes. I found pipes, like little glass pipes. You guys know what I'm talking about. All sorts of vaping paraphernalia, knives, razor blades, you name it. I found it there. So I like to do this as a service. Anywhere my kids play, I like to keep clean. So I did that, and I found my one little piece of jewelry for the day was this guy right here. Oh, you can't see it because there we go. Was right here. Come on, focus. A little heart with a little bit of bling on it. It's just fake. It does open up and have space for pictures. I think it opens this way. Big finger. Dropped it. Now it's broken. No, just kidding. It's not. Big fingers, little jewelry doesn't work very well. Anyway, it's a nice little heart, and obviously all jewelry goes to my daughter because she just claims it all. She was there anyway. So I found that in about a buck in change, which was fun. Okay, let's see. Twelble says, I want to thank WeatherWatch for the gift of membership almost a month ago. Twelble, better late than never. That's awesome. WeatherWatch is fantastic. He's gifted many people memberships over the months. Let's see. Yes, we do have a wide smorgasbord of DNA on the like button already. Thank you for all those who have contributed there. Paula MC spent over $1,300 on truck tires this morning. That hurt. Paula, I feel your pain.
Is that correct?
$1,300. We can do the math. That's basically a little over $400 per tire. I need a picture of your truck. And if it has like 22-inch chromed out wheels, that would explain it. But that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money on tires. Or possibly you've got semi-truck tires, which are also expensive. All right. I'm now cooking Mexican rice with cheese and chicken bake. What time is it going to be done, and what's the address? When should we be there? That sounds delicious, Rona. Debbie says, missed most of this morning, had a pedicure, and now keeping my grandson. That's awesome. Debbie, go back and watch it on the replay, maybe tomorrow, because I'm going to be out of town tomorrow. We had a little bit of fun. You definitely want to get there just for the geography lesson. You need to know which way is north. All right, I'm all caught up again. Am I the only one who's struggling with these last couple of witnesses? No, Tracy, a lot of us are struggling with the witnesses. I realize, and let me just say this first of all. I realize that a majority of us feel a certain way on this trial. I know there's a minority that feels the opposite way that's here. Don't feel like you have to hide in the corner. We do appreciate both perspectives. Even if I don't agree with you, I welcome that. And the fact that we can have that that discussion in a civil manner is great. So I know there are a couple of you that are just being quiet on this one and feel completely opposite. Do share what you're feeling. Let's keep it civil, and let's welcome everybody to have their opinion whichever way. Don't feel like you have to be quiet because most people don't agree with you. It doesn't. You may be right as far as the jury is concerned. Let's see. Can you please tell me how to find Sarah Boone on Discord? I can't seem to get it to work. Are you trying to contact her directly? Because I don't think she has it. But Dodie, on Discord, I was just in there a minute ago. Have you rolled up? Do you know what that means, or is that even required anymore, Dodie? I've done it a long time ago. So can you get to the view where you have all the different cases on the left-hand side of the screen? Let's see what I've got here. Let's see as the gavel drops. Because what I do is on the top right-hand corner of the screen, I can just search for Sarah Boone. And it will pull up July 24th, Sarah Boone, and it pulls up cases and links and just a whole big everything on it. And for me, I'll show you. It looks like, let's see, it looks like that. Right. Oh, where's this one? It looks like this. And I get all the memes and everything else that's happening. But up here in this little box up here in the top corner is where I search for Sarah Boone, and it just pulls up there. And then you click the link, and it takes you right to it. Let's see. Now I'm wound up. I am a little bit, but not big. DJRA in full effect. Yes, I was pushing all the buttons. It's good. It's good to be here. Oh, hey. We have... Now I have to get this all fixed. 1 second. I'll bring the picture to you in just 1 second. I need to get Discord down. Bring this back up. Cut back over. There we go. So here we are. Oh, now I disappeared. I'm back. They've got a big box. Somebody got a Christmas present. They just power it up without the judge even in the room. This is so bizarre. This really is crazy. The attorney and the bailiff, they are having a little back and forth. Very animated. Lots of smiles, lots of... we might need Dr. G in here to analyze the conversation. We can only see the attorney. Red Pen, I think the David and Goliath look is intentional. First of all, I don't think for 1 second that Mark is not capable of handling this case on his own. I think he's experienced. He's very smart. He's a good attorney. I think he's capable of handling this. The state obviously has all their personnel that are lined up, but it definitely gives a good perspective to show. Look, everyone's ganging up on my client, and it's just me and him. We need Dr. G. I think some of us are reading something into the body language already. Little shrug, tilt of the head, some nodding back and forth, some hand gestures. The deputy's doing a little swivel back and forth. Maybe he's a little nervous. First time flirting with a DA, not sure. Sorry, judge is coming, guys. Places, people. Places. She's clear out of there. Bailiff's on the phone. Oh, man. Seven says, thoughts on this Titanic stuff. Talking about scary. I've looked a little bit into this. I don't know a ton. Here's what I say. I saw a video... and it was from a couple of years ago, I think, where they were talking about how they sort of designed the Titan, they called it, the submersible, to do something that nobody really has designed a submersible to do before, especially to hold 5 people and go down that deep. And I've heard things about some of the components they use that were not rated to that depth, according to some of the reports I've seen. Specifically, the port window was rated to 1,300 feet or something, and they wanted to go down 6,000 feet or meters. I don't even know the measurement, but that's concerning. I've heard something about that they've heard banging, that their sonar can hear something banging. I don't know where they're hearing that, if that's from underwater, if there's something like a buoy on the surface that's just clanging against itself. It might be rhythmic, it might be with the waves, it might be people inside trying to get attention. I hope they can find it. I really do. It's the stuff of nightmares. It is. Yeah, there's no emergency exit. They cannot exit the submersible by themselves. They need help. And being controlled by a gaming controller, mine fails all the time. I would not trust a little wireless controller like that to drive it. Dr. G's doing a live stream tomorrow at 5 p.m. I will be up in... Oh, here we go. I'll be up in Virginia. Bailiff's coming back in. Judge is getting unpacked.
Bring the jury.
Got the notebook. What else is in these pockets? Oh, we've got lots of papers. Put that right back here for safekeeping. Boot up the computer, get logged in. Password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, he's logged back in. I shouldn't have said that. That may not be his password.
All rise. Court is now in session.
You waiting for Ms. Scott?
Yes, sir.
Waiting for the DA.
Because he's the guy.
He's the guy. I'm going to turn the sounds down so we can hear. These are going to be some important motions. Cachette, welcome. I'm halfway curious, Cachette, if you're going to do anything with the video from this morning. I've liked both you and Phil make some amazing little clips of what happened. And I may have gone off a little bit this morning. So I wonder where that's going to go. I'm looking forward to it, if it does go anywhere. Here we go.
Okay, I'm going to go back on the record. This is State versus Scot Peterson, 197166 CF10A. I have Ms. Gomes, Mr. Killer, and Mr. Klinger present for the state. I have Mr. Igarsh present with Mr. Peterson, who likewise is present. We are outside the presence of the jury. The state having rested their case. Any motions on behalf of the defendant, Mr. Igarsh, please.
Yes, Your Honor. First, we would renew all motions made throughout this trial, including the ones made during jury selection and throughout the state's case. And we would be moving for a judgment of acquittal on all 11 counts. The court knows each and every element. I don't have to go through them. The court heard the testimony in this case, and we do not believe that the state met their burden as required by law.
Very succinct.
Okay, state, your response, if any.
Your Honor, I think the court well knows the standard, the light most favorable evidence. Looking at the evidence in the light most favorable to the state has put forward considerable evidence to the jury to allow them to go back and apply that to the law the court gives them and all counts of the information.
So, Mr. Klinger, let me ask you this. When does the defendant become a caregiver? When does the defendant become a caregiver for the listed victims in counts 1 through 10, or 1 through 7?
Well, when does he become the caregiver? He becomes a caregiver once he becomes the SRO of the school. But if you want an individual to those...
Well, he's not charged with anything as it relates to the victims on the first floor, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I presume that means at some point you determine, or the state has determined he's not a caregiver that has criminal liability for what takes place on the first floor.
Oh,
but
no.
You're telling me he does have criminal liability for what takes place on the third floor. So my question is, when does he become a caregiver to the people on the third floor?
The reason he wasn't charged with anyone on the first floor is he couldn't have gotten there in time to help him in any way. So we decided, since he was still on his way to the scene, not to charge him with the first floor, that we would only charge him with what happened after he arrived, which is about the time that he's with the shooters with bikes, killing bikes. So
you're saying as a caregiver for everyone, but I'm looking at the first element as to neglect of a child, page 27.03. You're saying the first element doesn't apply to anyone on the first floor because it's nothing that he did or failed to do that would have changed anything that happened on the first floor. Is that what you're telling me?
Exactly. We didn't feel that he because he wasn't even there yet, he couldn't have gotten there any faster. That wouldn't have been fair to have charged him with those. That was a decision made, a filing decision that was made at the very weekend.
So he's a caregiver for everybody?
Yes.
All the 4,000 students at the school?
Yes, sir.
And the 40 acres of the school grounds? Or whatever the size is?
Yes. He is
In other words, every school resource officer, the state's position is every school resource officer is a caregiver for every student at every public school upon setting foot on the campus.
This is big.
The school that he's contracted to. Right. He is the SRO. That's the special relationship that you see from the contract, and you see in the various training that he has. That he has a special relationship with the students, faculty, and administrators of the school, because he takes on that role, and it's a contractual role that's set, and we put all those documents into evidence. You see he has special powers, SROs, right? They can detain students. They can search without probable cause. They're given all these various extra rights that a patrolman on the street does not have, and even if that patrolman came into the school, he wouldn't have. But the SRO does. The SRO is given a different position, and he operates under a different set, in some instances, under a different set of rules. So you do have a very special relationship between him and the school. What is he there for? He is there to protect the students. That's the whole point of it. And that's why he's the head of security. You should know the school inside and out, know the security system inside and out. He is there for the daily stuff that goes wrong, and then when, God forbid, things really go wrong. It doesn't matter. That's his position.
So let me ask you this then, next.
Can I just add one more thing?
Sure.
We feel that at this point that would be a decision for the jurors to make, the caregiver decision. That's not. You made a legal decision way back a couple weeks ago about, or maybe it was even longer than that, about what statutes you were going to apply caregiver. But for now, it's the state's position. We've given.
It's not my decision. I'm just looking at the standard instructions from the Florida Supreme Court. You charged them under 827.03. subsection 2B, and the Florida Supreme Court has promulgated standard jury instructions for 827.03 subsection 2B.
What was that number, Judge?
827.03, number 2, little b. And the third element is that the defendant was a caregiver for whichever alleged victim. So,
right.
I mean, right, that's a jury question, but I guess I'm trying to figure out, looking at it like most favorable to the state, have you proven that with the evidence?
Well, also there was evidence of him being a mentor. One of the reasons behind the program, and I believe the case was cited to when you were working on the motion to dismiss Braddy. That's another role that they have, is being mentors to the students at the school. That's part of the program. So there was quite, well, from the state's point of view, there was quite a bit of evidence that went in for the jurors to decide whether or not he has a caregiver position.
The second element, let's say you get over the caregiver hurdle, the second element, as to counts 1 through 7, says in doing so, or at least in counts 1 through 6, the defendant caused great bodily harm, permanent disability, or permanent disfigurement to the listed victim. Did Mr. Cruz do that?
Are you taking that from the jury instructions?
Yes, sir.
This is he's citing them, saying you charged him under this statute. I'm reading the Supreme Court instructions for the jury on this, saying this is what you have to find. And they're saying, what's that number again? Literally, the charge they charged him with. They're like, let us check the books again.
Are you referring to the
Element number 2,
they're panicking.
neglect of a child, 16.5, is the defendant caused great bodily harm, permanent disability, or permanent disfigurement to, and then you fill in the listed victim. So, tell me what the evidence is that he caused great bodily harm, permanent disability, or permanent disfigurement?
Well, that, Judge, I believe, if I've got it correct, that comes from it's in the jury instructions underneath the list of the 4 elements that need to be proven. And it's also in the statute that that comes from the neglect itself can be based on repeated conduct or a single incident or omission that resulted in or reasonably could have been expected to result in serious physical, mental injury or a substantial risk of death to a child.
It's a stretch.
It's all read together because that's the whole purpose of it, is that you did not supply, you did not give the care that you were supposed to do, and that resulted in the injury. So you, by your admission, by not doing what you were supposed to do.
So he caused it by failing to act.
Greener's 100% agree with you.
Theory.
I know, I realize the word cause, at times makes people maybe pause, not pause, but pause for a second. But that is how the statute reads, and that is how it's read in pari-mutuel, the other paragraphs in the statute itself, and it's in the jury instruction. That omission, at least in this case, we're talking about, it's not always an omission either here. We're not saying there's some things that were omitted, but there's also some things that he did that didn't do any good or weren't helpful. So he did do certain things and didn't do other things.
Yeah, I understand that, but in 827.03 it says, a person who willfully or by culpable negligence neglects a child and in doing so causes great bodily harm, permanent disability, or permanent disfigurement. It's in the jury instruction as well, that he caused it. So
This would be
the
like
state's position is
leaving a
that
child in a car.
the
Causes
defendant caused these injuries,
injury.
or at least enough so to be held criminally responsible for them?
The defendant, it comes, yes, because it comes from the qualification. That's there in the instructions and in 827.03 itself. The neglect was underneath number 3. Neglect of a child may be based on repeated conduct or a single incident or omission that resulted in or reasonably could have been expected to result in serious physical or mental injury or a substantial risk of death to a child. So the conduct, right, enables the killing to go on inside the building.
But he would have to know that, right? The jury would have to be convinced through your evidence. Again, I'm supposed to look at the light most favorable to the state. The jury would have to be convinced that he knew there was someone in that building shooting people and that he failed to act or acted incorrectly, so his act or omission caused these injuries. He would have to know that that was happening, right?
You have to know that the injuries were happening or just the shootings.
He would have to know that the danger existed. He would have to know that something's going on in that building.
Well, here, again, I think at this point you're touching on another issue that would be a factual issue for the jury to make a determination on, whether it does fit into the statute. I mean, we've laid out all the things that were done or not done during that time period.
Well, listen.
There's not. I mean, you see the five.
I don't get a vote, but let's say if I believe in a light most favorable to the state that you have proven that the defendant maybe didn't follow his training or act in the manner that was consistent with the training. But that's not what the jury's being asked to decide. They're being asked to decide, did he commit the crime of neglect of a child? And the crime of neglect of a child says that he caused the injury. So I guess that's the part that I'm stuck on. Well, how did he cause these injuries?
He caused the injury through his omission. His failure to do what he was supposed to do. He didn't do anything. He goes over and stays for 48 minutes in one spot. Instead of, as you heard some of the testimony today, open the door, check to see what's going on, talk to the students, go toward the sound of the shots. It was all laid out in the information, actually, at various points. Not speaking with the students, not going to the sound of the gunfire, not seeing out the shooter. There was a whole plethora of his stuff that he could have done that he didn't do, and that then forms the basis of the causation. It causes the killing to continue on because he isn't doing what he's supposed to be doing in caring for the child.
I so want the judge to throw this out.
Okay, well, at this point, again, understanding we're not at the end of the trial, we're not at the end of the evidence, but at this point, I am to look at the evidence in a light most favorable to the state. I don't know what part of the evidence, witnesses, or testimony the jury's going to believe or not believe, but if they believe everything from the state's point of view, I guess they certainly could believe that the elements of each crime have been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, or in fact they may conclude that it hasn't been, but that would be their decision to make, at least at this point. So respectfully, the defense motion for judgment of acquittal is going to be denied as to all counts.
You know what this is?
Next. Defense, do we have witnesses ready to go?
Did not throw it out.
Okay. Anything you need me to address before we bring the jury back in?
Okay.
No, Your Honor. Just note our objection to the court not granting this motion of judgment of acquittal. The court was struggling with it. Even in a light most favorable to the state, they did not meet the elements of the crime, and I don't believe that we should be continuing with these charges at this time.
Preserve it for appeal.
State, anything you need me to address before we bring the jury back in? No. Okay. So, Mr. Agarshaw, will please bring the jury back. We'll bring the jury back in. I'll welcome them back from the lunch break, explain to them that the state having rested their case, we're now going to turn to the defense presentation, and I'm going to ask you to call your next witness.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Okay. So here's what I heard. Ready? I heard the judge struggling legally with moving forward, saying if they believe everything just the way that you guys laid it out, okay, if they pick and choose, if the jury believes everything the way that you laid it out, I can see they may be able to get there. I can't. The case isn't over. I don't know what they're going to believe. Wow. Someone's playing something. He says it's not over. At this point, when he says at this point, there is another point where this judge can interject himself into the proceedings, and it's right at the end. It's after the jury comes back with a verdict. And if the jury comes back with a guilty verdict, there's another opportunity for the defense attorney, Mark, to stand up and say, we move that you come back with a directed verdict and overrule what this jury has come back with, and say no, this was improper. From a legal perspective, it hasn't been met. I've looked at all the evidence now. There's a chance there. I would be surprised if it was thrown out at this point. As Greener's pointed out, this is a little bit of posturing. It's a surprise because he's seemed so biased for him to come out so much so strongly for the defense. Yes, you can make a motion for a directed verdict in spite of what the jury did. So that's in the back pocket, and he might actually have some grounds there. Who is it? Come on in.
Entering.
Yeah, come on in. Here, hang on. Let me widen out the camera so we can film you all as we get in here. There's also a chance after defense rests. I don't know if it's after the defense rests. I think it's after the jury comes back. It's just the prosecution. I don't think they do enough to defense. I might be wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Come on in. Ladies and gentlemen, once you're back in those seats, you may be seated. All the parties may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you using your notepads, I'll give you a moment to get the notepads back out.
That's kind of you, Your Honor. Wouldn't expect that from you after all this time. Okay. All right. I'm trying to adjust the audio to make it perfect.
Ladies and gentlemen, when we took our lunch break, the state had rested their case. So at this point, we're now going to turn to the defense presentation. Mr. Agarshaw, when you are ready, you may call your next witness.
Who's it going to be? Scot
Thank you,
Peterson.
Your Honor. The defense calls Suzanne Camel. Suzanne Camel.
Okay. I know. Kelly May, this is killing me. We need this to either wrap up or stretch out. I cannot have this end on Thursday or Friday. Yes. Not many people there. No family members there for this portion. It looks like that's typically where the family members sat. Let's bring up the objection counter. This objection counter is how many times the state has objected, and the judge agreed with the state. She's super nervous. Look at the way she's holding her arms. She is super, super nervous. Okay, a few family members there. Guess we were looking at the back of the court.
I'd like to have you come all the way up here to the witness stand, please. Once you reach it, but before you have a seat, you can just stop and look at it. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth. All right, please be seated.
Very soft-spoken.
And And once you are seated, if I can just scoot that chair all the way forward as far as it will go. Can you please state your full name and spell your full name?
Suzanne Camel. SUZANNECAMEL.
Mr. Igosh, you may inquire.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Campbell.
Good afternoon.
Tell the jurors how you're feeling right now.
I'm nervous.
Have you
A
ever
little nauseous, but
nauseous? Yeah. Have you ever testified in front of a jury before?
no.
I'll have you out of here as quick as possible. Tell us what you do for a living.
I'm a teacher still.
Okay.
I teach with Broward County still, doing hospital environment.
And when did you start teaching? What year? Do you remember?
2003.
And were you a teacher on February 14th, 2018?
Yes.
Tell the jurors where you were a teacher.
At Stillman Douglas.
And what building were you in?
My room was in the 700 building.
And where is the 700 building in relation to the 1200 building?
Well, it's like right across the little field.
Okay.
I guess they run parallel to each other.
And is it a far distance or a close distance? How would you characterize it?
It's pretty close, like maybe from here to the back of the room.
Okay. And when you walk out of your classroom, is that the building that you're staring at, the 1200 building?
Yes. Oh, yeah, it's right in front of you when you walk.
And what do you teach? What's your expertise?
Math.
All layers of math?
Yes.
And I want to take you back to that day. And what were you doing prior to the fire alarm going off in the afternoon?
Well, I mean, we were having normal classes, and I was giving a test that day.
Okay, some type of math exam to your students?
Like a little, yeah.
And what happened while you were giving a math exam?
One of my students was out going to the bathroom, and
Which student was that?
his name was Xavier, and we heard, like the whole class, everybody heard noise, and we didn't know what it was, so I thought immediately that maybe he was throwing something, or I don't know. I just went outside to see if I could see him, because he had gone to the bathroom, and maybe it was him, because he was outside for a little while before that happened. And so then I walked outside, and I turned toward the bathroom area, because when you walk out, it's like an outdoor corridor, I guess.
Let me show you a photograph and just see if you're able to identify. Are you on the first floor or the second floor of the 700 building?
Second floor.
Second floor? Okay. Let me show you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit. Let me show you what's marked as a Defense Exhibit E. Do you recognize what's contained in this photograph? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. What are you looking at here?
Well, that's the 700 building.
Okay.
Behind that, I think, is the 1300.
Okay. Are you able to see where your classroom is located?
Over there, that's the theater.
When you take a look at this photograph, I don't know if your classroom is contained.
Like upstairs in the middle of, like by that tree.
Okay,
That
can you
fence
just
is
put your
still around
finger
the
as close
1200
to it?
building to this day.
I mean, you can't see because of the trees, but it's like right there. It's
Okay.
in between those.
All right. So somewhere towards the middle of the 700 building?
Like right about there, yeah.
And then that building closest to you, is that the 1200 building?
This is, yes.
Okay.
The 1200 building is going to be demolished as soon as this case is over.
You think that Xavier is the source of the noise that you're hearing, correct?
Well, at first, yeah, I didn't know what was going on, so I went out to try to see what was happening.
What did those noises sounded like at first when you were inside your classroom?
Loud bangs. None of us had any idea what was going on. It was just kind of got our attention.
Did you And again, we're talking about before you go outside, right? Because you can
Yes.
hear additional shots, or you hear noises when you go outside, correct? All right. So is that a yes? You have to answer.
Yes.
All right. We're just talking about what you hear inside your classroom before you go outside. What did you think that those noises were? You said loud.
Well, it sounded a little bit like somebody lit firecrackers and threw them outside the door. That's what it sounded like at first.
Did it sound like these were contained within a building or outside?
No, it sounded like it was right outside. I thought it was right outside my room. That's why I thought it maybe it was my student.
Okay. And so you go outside to investigate. What happens next?
Well, it was pretty empty, actually. There was nobody there, so I turned toward the bathroom to see if I could see him where Xavier went. And
Is this all from the second floor balcony where
Yes.
you showed us? Okay.
Yes.
And then what do you do? What happens next?
We started hearing loud noises, pops again, and I didn't know what it was. I just started looking around everywhere, and then he came running around the corner.
He is Xavier. Correct?
Xavier, and we just kind of looked at each other, and I said, like, what are you doing? And he said, it's not me, and we had like a quick minute to try to figure out what it was, and like neither one of us could quite figure out what was going on. It sounded almost like something was being it sounded like fireworks being thrown at us is really what it sounded like. It almost sounded like something even hit the building where we were, but we didn't. No, I yelled at him to get in the room. That was all before the fire alarm, though. So.
Okay. Could you tell whether the shots that you did there ever come a time where you thought that they were shots?
Well, yes. We were in the room for hours. We knew.
But you didn't know what they were when you were on the balcony, correct?
No.
And as best you thought, I think I heard you say you thought somebody was throwing fireworks at you, correct?
Yeah, it was incredibly loud, and you just couldn't. We couldn't figure out what was going on.
I want to freeze the moment when you're on the balcony and go back to your state of mind. Did you think that these firecracker noise? Did you think that they were inside a building or outside of a building?
It was just so loud. Instinctively, we bent down. In that picture, you could see the wall. We bent down, but below the wall, just because we didn't know what it was. It just immediately kind of dropped down like that, and then tried to peek over to see what was going on.
Tell the jurors why you bent down. Why did you think that might help?
Well, just because it was so loud, it sounded like something was coming at us. Like we didn't know what it was, neither one of us. And then he just ran into the room, and I kind of stayed by the wall for a little bit, and then.
Did you ever think that these were shots coming from inside the 1200 building?
When I was outside, I didn't know what it was.
Give me a moment, Ms. Campbell.
Prosecution needs to be very careful with her.
I think. By the way, you're no longer teaching at the school, correct?
No.
How come?
I wasn't able to.
Yeah, that's his name.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Campbell.
The question was, you're no longer teaching at the school, and how come? Her door, she opens up and sees the 1200 building.
Hi.
I attempted to speak a little bit quickly. Can you maybe slow down? Just please let me know, okay?
Okay.
Before February 14th of 2018, you had never heard gunshots before, had you?
No.
Now, when you went outside the classroom to find Xavier, from the time that you left your classroom to the time that you went back in, how long did you estimate that was?
It wasn't a lot of time.
Do you think it was more than a minute, less than a minute?
Maybe a minute or two. Because it wasn't just out and back in. We were out there for a little bit, trying to figure out what.
To the time that you bent down, how long? And you can estimate this for me. How long would you say that was?
Audio just dropped. We're struggling. We lost the internet. Can you hear me now? Sorry, we had a buffering moment there.
Within a minute, I guess.
Okay. So if that's within a minute and you think you were outside maybe a minute to 2 minutes, how long were you actually bent down peeking over the ledge? You can ballpark it for me. I'm not going to hold you to the exact second.
30 seconds, 40 seconds. Because the noise was happening while that was going on. So.
And these loud, I'm sorry, as you described, Mr. Arwash, very loud noises.
Yeah.
It was so loud that you thought something was actually hitting your building 700.
Yeah, and then we weren't sure what was going on. It sounded like something was hitting it, or like a building was collapsing, or something huge. It was just dreadfully loud, and you could tell it was just not. Something was wrong. It was very wrong.
And you could tell you never heard gunshots before. You knew something was wrong. Maybe that it wasn't gunshots, but something was wrong. Is that correct? Okay. Now, when you peeked over the ledge, what did you see?
Well, I mean, when you look over the ledge, you could just see straight at the 1200 building.
And did you notice anything specific in the 1200 building or around the 1200 building?
Well, yeah, I could see my head was focusing where the noise was all coming from, I guess. So it caught my eye that I could see into the bottom, like the very bottom window in that first classroom.
So you said that the sound drew your attention. So you could tell generally it was coming from north of you, around the 1200 building.
I just knew it wasn't like at my building, because like I could see everything right around me, so I knew it had to be out there. So I just started looking around. Yeah. And
eventually something in the 1200 building caught your attention.
Yeah, you could see.
What could you see? If you could explain to the jury what you saw.
You could see in the window, it was almost surreal. It was like while the pops were happening, you could see like smoke billowing there.
And what do you mean by smoke billowing? Just to explain what it looked like. I know it's a tough question, but just the best that you can if you can explain to the jury.
Like puffing lightly out the window with the shots.
And with the puffing that you saw, was that?
And then I thought the building was collapsing. I thought that was going to happen.
Okay. With the puffing that you saw, was that corresponding to the sounds you were hearing of the shots or the loud noises you heard?
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Now, ultimately, a code red was called, correct?
Yes.
But even before that, when the fire alarm went off, you did not allow your students to leave your classroom, did you?
No, well, that all happened right before the fire alarm. And when I saw that smoke, I started thinking that building's coming down, so I didn't let my kids go out at all. I made them all just stay in the classroom, and then there was a short amount of time after the fire alarm, and then somebody else came on screaming about the code red.
Do you recall? What do you mean somebody came on?
Somebody on the overhead, on the loudspeakers.
Okay. Did you recognize that voice as any assistant principal in particular?
I'm not sure.
Oh. So, if I understand correctly, while you were bending down, is that when the fire alarm goes off? If you recall.
The fire alarm went off, it was a little bit after. It was after I saw the smoke coming from that window, because the fire alarm went off while I was starting to go back to my classroom anyway, and then I heard the fire alarm and the kids started getting up, and I had another teacher in the room, and we all kept everybody just in the room. Nobody went out.
So the order, and I don't mean to be complicated here, I'm just trying to get the order down.
And then shortly thereafter was the code red.
Okay. So just rewinding just a little bit. You go outside to see Xavier because you hear a loud noise, correct?
Yes.
You see Xavier, he comes over and he says something to the effect that it wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Then you hear more noises, so you and Xavier both bend down.
I don't know if Xavier did.
Okay.
I think I was telling him to get in the classroom.
Okay.
So I don't remember exactly what he did.
Okay. So he ultimately ran back to the classroom.
Yeah, and I was here's the door. I was in front of the door, and he came down this way and went in, and I stayed there for a little bit by that wall.
Okay.
Before I went in.
And that's when you're bent down, peeking over. Fire alarm goes off. You then go to the classroom and tell everybody to stay inside.
Yes.
Did you do that to protect your students because something was going on?
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that if the building was coming down, there was no way I was going to let them go out. But we were in there a long time. We knew everything by the time we left.
And did you mean students or yourself were receiving texts or other messages about what was going on?
Yes.
Kevin, I hear you, my man.
Back in
You got
your
insight
classroom,
most of us don't have on this.
Back in, you could still hear loud noises, correct?
It was intermittent. Yeah, it would start and then stop, and then start and then stop.
Could you tell it was the same type of sounds that you had heard when you were outside?
Yeah, I mean, we weren't sure.
This lady's going to break. Oh, my goodness.
Because we were starting to figure out what was going on, but then we were all just trying to figure out, like, how come it's still happening? Like, why isn't it stopping? What's going on? We didn't know.
She's reliving this in her head. This is probably almost as bad as the day it happened for her.
I have nothing further for this witness, sir.
Based on that, I can redirect. Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
She wants to go. She wants to go. She was grabbing her stuff.
The puff of smoke that you saw, that was before the fire alarm went off, correct?
Yes.
So you never saw my client on the scene, correct?
No.
And after the fire alarm went off, did you get a chance to go back out and look at anything, or you were in your classroom?
Not until SWAT came to get us.
Okay. And did you ever figure out, like, how it is that you couldn't wrap your head around the sound coming from inside the 1200 building? Did you ever think about that?
It was just so loud and echoey, like everywhere. We just knew. You could tell it wasn't literally at the building, but you couldn't tell where it was just because it was so loud.
Okay, you mentioned echoey.
Yeah, it would bounce. I guess the sound bounced off the buildings because it makes like a rectangular shape of buildings right there. So I guess that's what's happening. I don't know.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cam. I wish you the very best.
Based on any of that, any recross?
Yes, just very
Go
briefly.
ahead.
Ms. Campbell, you described it as echoey, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. You still looked at the 1200 building at the windows, though, the direction of where.
Yeah, I looked over the ledge, definitely.
And it drew your attention to the windows where the building spoke. So even with all this echo, you could kind of tell the vicinity of where the shots were coming. Or the noise was coming from.
Yeah, at that time I didn't know what it was, so I just looked over and then movement caught my eye, so.
And that corresponded with what you heard? Yes. Okay. Nothing further.
Mr. Eilish, is the witness excused?
Yes, sir.
And you may step down. Thank you very much. While she is doing that, defense, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Defense calls Tyler Darbo.
So the 1200 building has been left exactly in the state it was after they finished their investigation. It's locked, and there's a fence, a perimeter fence around it. It's not being used. The campus is being used. Once all these cases, meaning this one and the shooter's case, are over, that building is scheduled to be demolished. And yeah, think of all the years. Think of the kids who've gone through their whole upper school education walking around that building. First of all, no student should ever have to be led from their classroom by a SWAT team. There's just so much wrong in society, and I'm not trying to get political here, but there are issues that need to be handled and addressed, and I think it's bigger than what I can handle here on my channel. But wow. I agree. The defense is doing a good job. They did get some testimony out of this witness that the matches. The echoey comment was really good for them. Not sure who. We have two witnesses. One needs to take a seat.
All the way up here to the witness stand, please.
I think this is going to be a
Once you
student.
reach it, before you have a seat, you can just stop and look at me. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please be seated. And once you're seated, if I could just scoot that chair all the way up as far as it will go, can you please state your full name and spell your full name?
My name is Tyler Jarboe, Tyler-Jarboe.
Mr. Agarsh, you may inquire.
Thank you. Mr. Jabot, would you prefer that I call you Tyler or Mr. Jabot?
Tyler is fine.
Okay, fair enough. Are you in school right now?
I just graduated in May.
And where did you graduate from?
Florida Polytechnic University.
And what did you study?
Computer science and AI.
And were you a student at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas ever?
I was.
Were you a student back on February 14, 2018?
Yes, I was a junior.
And what class were you in when something unusual happened that day?
I was in Mr. Sanders' pre-calculus class.
And where is his class located?
It is in the building across from the 1200 building. I believe that is the 700 building.
Can I show you a photograph and see if you're able, and I'm not sure if your classroom's here, but if you could just take a look at this, and I'm showing you what has been marked as Defense Exhibit E. Are you able to see at least approximately where your classroom would be located?
It's not on this picture. It'd be on the other side of the building. That's all the way on the right side.
It's further down here?
Well, it's on the side facing the courtyard. It's not on the side facing the 1200 building.
Got it. And is that, do you know if the football field is on the west side? Do you remember where the football field is located?
Yes.
Is your classroom closer to the west side?
It's closer to the east side.
Closer to the east side of the 1200 building, correct?
Yes.
And were you on the first or second floor?
The second floor.
Now, before the fire alarm went off, do you remember what you were doing?
We were taking an exam, a quiz. We were taking some exam for that class.
And then did you hear the fire alarm go off?
Yes.
Tell us what happened.
So after the fire alarm went off, we did what we normally do for fire alarms and go out the door to the left and then go to the stairwell. That's on the east side.
And that stairwell, would that have been closest to the east or to the west?
To the east.
Okay. And what happened next?
So after we went over to the stairwell to the east, there was two gentlemen that walked up the stairs and was telling us that it wasn't a drill. But none of us knew what was happening. The teachers at the time were telling us to go back down the stairs for our normal fire drills. And that's when I looked over the edge and saw Scot Peterson.
How close were you to Scot Peterson?
I was right above him, probably no more than 5 to 10 feet.
Okay, and what do you see him doing?
He was just sitting there against the stairwell, unholstering his weapon.
Okay, you saw him.
I'm sorry.
He was just unholstering his weapon.
Okay. Had you heard any shots up to that point?
No, we have not heard anything.
All right. What happened next?
So after that, me and my teacher, after we looked over the edge, we then started to walk back to the classroom. He was ushering everybody.
I forgot to ask you one question. When you see him unholstering his weapon, do you see him looking in any particular direction?
He was looking towards the west side, which I believe is where the football field is.
Okay,
he was
so looking down in that direction, correct?
Yes.
All right, and what happened next?
After we looked over the edge, we then were walking. Our teacher at the time told us to walk back to the classroom, and that's when we started to head back.
And then what happened?
As soon as we rounded the corner is when we heard about 3 to 4 shots.
And what did those sound like?
They sounded a lot like firecrackers. We didn't know what it was at the time, but it was just loud pops. And that's when, that's as we were going back to the classroom.
And how many did you hear about?
About 3 to 4.
Okay. And then what happened?
Then we just went back to the classroom and then hid in the corner.
Let me go back to when you hear those pops.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How close would you estimate at that point you are to Scot Peterson?
I don't know the exact distance, but it's around 30 to 40 feet.
Okay. And when you heard those shots, where did you think that they were coming from?
The stairwell that's on the west side of the 700 building, that's where it generally sounded it was coming from.
Okay.
But
So did you ever think that they were contained within a particular building?
no, I just knew the direction that it was coming from.
Okay. Did you ever say, gosh, there's shots being fired inside of the 1200 building?
No, I just knew that it was coming from the west side stairwell.
And you thought it was the west side stairwell of the 700 building, correct?
I just knew it was coming from that direction. I didn't know where it was.
You've learned in retrospect that the shots were actually inside of the 1200 building, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever think back and wonder why it is that you thought that the shots were coming from west and outside?
I have not just thought about why it was coming from that side.
Have you ever had experience with echoes in that area?
It does echo quite a bit.
Explain for the jurors your experience about that.
I mean, it is a hallway outside. There's a lot of concrete that's around buildings. The walls are flat. Someone can drop a textbook and it will echo throughout. You can hear it pretty clearly throughout the hallway.
So before the shooting, you had experienced times where loud noise will take place and then you don't know where the noise is coming from, correct?
You know the direction where it's coming from, but you can't pinpoint its exact location.
Okay. I wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Cross-examination, go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. Tyler, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Not too bad. As I tell every witness, I speak pretty quickly. If you need me to slow down, just let me know, okay?
Okay.
Now, I want to show you a picture here.
Sure.
The overhead.
Yeah, can we have the screens on for this?
Yes, yes. And with the annotator, Your Honor.
Sure.
Tyler, that screen is actually going to be interactive, so you can actually draw on it and circle things.
Okay.
Sir, do you see three little bars at the bottom of your screen?
Yes.
Just touch those.
Okay.
Which way's north?
Tyler, do you recognize this aerial view?
Yes.
Can you just mark with a pencil just where the 700 building is?
I think the pencil's on, right? So the 700 building would be this building right here.
Okay. Now, your class was on the south side, so facing kind of the courtyard.
Yes.
With the, I changed it. Oh, can you just mark with a circle where the courtyard is?
The courtyard is right here.
Okay. Now, where approximately was your classroom?
It was about right here-ish.
So when you leave that classroom, and if you want to maybe change it to a green or purple, just for clarification, it's easier. When you left the classroom on the fire drill, what route did you take?
So as we came out the classroom, we walked up here into the stairwell that's right there.
Now this stairwell right here, when you said that you looked over the edge, were you looking north over the ledge, or is it east or west? What direction were you looking over the edge?
Just north over the ledge.
Okay. So if you continue with that purple line up to kind of where that white part is, that's where the ledge is that you were looking over?
Yes.
Okay. And if you could, can you just mark with an X approximately where you saw Mr. Peterson?
I saw him right around here-ish.
Okay. And you said you saw him unholstering his gun?
Yeah, he was on the wall.
He was on the wall. Did you see him actually taking that out of the holster, or did he already have it in his hands?
It was very quickly that I looked over.
Okay, so that's actually my next question. For how long would you say you saw him? You can estimate this.
Probably no more than a second to a couple seconds.
Now, you said that he was facing, it looked like he was facing west towards the football field, right?
Yes.
Was his body facing west, or was it just his head?
I don't really remember.
And I know you just testified it was only a second, so if you don't know the answer to this, that's fine. But did it look like he was scanning, or did it look like he was focused on the west side?
I just saw him looking to the west side.
Okay, fair enough. Now, you're walking back, so basically just tracking back on the purple line that you already drew. You heard 3 to 4 shots.
Yes.
Had you ever heard a gunshot before in your life, in real life?
No.
And at that point in time, you were about 30 or 40 feet from Mr. Peterson?
About.
Can you just change it to green for me? And once again, mark approximately where you were when you heard the shot.
I was about here-ish when I started to hear the shots.
So right at the corner?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you stated on direct examination by Mr. Ardbush that you knew the direction that it was coming from. Which direction was that?
It was coming from the west side stairwell. Do you want me to mark it on the?
Yeah, sure.
So it was about, I believe the stairwell is right here. So it sounded like it was coming from that direction.
And where, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit, so I'm just going to erase this. Or you have to actually erase it. I don't have control. You don't have to worry for a second. I'm just going to zoom out. On this one, actually, I'm going to show you, and for records, this is 17. I'm going to show you States 1.
So this witness thought it was coming from the 700 building on the other end, not the 1200 building. Ivan. We need to get Kevin in green so he doesn't have to wait for the timer to be up to chat.
Got it. I'm sorry. I got it. So I'm showing you what's already added to States 1. Zoom in a little bit. Looking at that photo, where's the senior lot?
The senior lot is at the north side.
You can mark it.
Okay, so the senior lot is here. It's that entire parking lot.
Did you at any time think the shots were coming from that direction, the senior lot?
I just knew it was coming from that area. I didn't know where it was. So in that direction, yes, but not. I didn't know if it was in the senior lot or not.
Okay. So earlier you marked, and you can just mark again if you will, the west stairwell on the 700 building.
So the west stairwell is here.
Okay. So it could have been from the west stairwell, but it also could have been from the senior lot.
Yeah.
Senior lot is north of you?
Yes.
And the building between you and the senior lot is the 1200 building?
Yes.
You mentioned on direct examination about that echoes in the hallway. And it was kind of like a known thing. And if someone dropped a textbook, you would kind of hear the echoes. Mm-hmm. Is that a yes? I'm sorry, yes.
Oh, sorry, yes.
So it was widely known that hallways weren't necessarily the best place to stand if you're trying to determine where a sound came from, were they?
Yeah.
They would not be the best place.
They wouldn't be the best place, yes.
All right, any further questions?
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Is the witness excused?
He is.
All right, sir, you may step down. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samantha, for the gifted membership that went to Dusty Den.
Thank you, Your Honor. We call Jeffrey Morford. Jeffrey Morford.
Hey, Mods, is it okay if we get rid of the slow mode for a little bit? Or do you want to keep that on? That's you guys are the ones doing all the work. I don't want to make the decision.
Yeah, I'm not going to use them.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate that. Appreciate your perspective. Possibly get a chance to talk sometime. I'd love to. Okay, so the gentleman in the sort of checkered, the brown shirt, is he a victim advocate type individual, or I'm just trying to figure out what his capacity is. He's clearly not a uniformed bailiff, maybe a civilian bailiff.
Stand, please. Once you reach it, before you have a seat, you can just stop and look at me. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth. Please be seated.
Okay, guys, I'm turning off slow-mo. Be good.
So once you're seated, if I get you to scoot that chair all the way forward as far as it will go. Okay. Can you please state your full name and spell your full name?
Jeffrey Morford, Jeffrey Morford.
Mr. Igosh, you may inquire.
Thank you. Mr. Morford, are you currently working?
No, sir, I'm retired.
And what are you retired from?
I was assistant principal at Stoneman Douglas.
And how long were you in the school system?
I was in Broward schools 21 years, I believe, overall 33 years in public school.
And did you ever work for Marjorie Stoneman Douglas?
For 6 years.
6 years? And during that time, did you ever have contact with Scot Peterson?
I did.
Tell the jurors what type of interaction you had with him.
I would interact with him daily. He would help me anytime I had issues with parents, students, anything in that nature. We even shared duties together, like lunchtime and things like that. So I spent a lot of time with him.
Your title was assistant principal, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what was his relationship like with the kids?
He had a good relationship. I felt like that we were able to stop some things from happening because kids had confidence to come and talk to him, to share things with him. And he had a good rapport with, I believe, administration, staff, and students.
Were there times were there any fights on campus?
We had a few.
And did you ever see Scot Peterson get involved and try to stop those fights?
He would always jump in and help, always.
Were there times he would do that even without backup?
Correct.
Did you ever see any acts at all that would lead you to believe he was a coward in any way?
No,
Objections to pending your order.
No, that's overruled, and you already answered the question. Go ahead, sir. Ask your next question.
Sorry.
And if there were arrests that needed to be made at school, would you call upon Scott to investigate and make those arrests if necessary?
Correct.
On the day in question, do you recall the fire alarm going off?
I do.
And tell us what happened.
I remember I was in my office.
Where was that?
I was in the 100 building. Okay. And I went to Deputy Peterson's office. The fire alarm was in there, and someone was already in there working with it. So I remember I came back to my office, and eventually I went outside to start, helping with getting kids, with the fire alarm.
When you went into his office, was he in his office at that point?
I don't recall that. I don't recall that.
Okay. And then what happened next? What did you do?
Then I eventually went out to the hallway and started, getting kids. My area to take care of was right there by the main 100 building in the auditorium. So I went that way. I eventually ended up down toward the auditorium area, headed toward the 1200 building. I didn't get near that far down, but in that direction. And I eventually ran into Office Monitor Stabley, who informed me what was going on. And so I headed back to try to start, because kids were all coming down for the fire, thinking it was a fire drill. And so we were trying to get them in the auditorium and get them back up the stairs back to their classrooms.
Were you equipped with a school radio?
Yes, sir.
Do you know approximately how many people had a school radio?
A lot.
A lot. I mean, not just administrators, people
No.
like custodians. Right?
Correct. All campus monitors, custodians, even some department heads. So there was a lot of radios on campus.
Okay. Do you always hear every transmission over the school radio?
No.
Tell the jurors how come you don't always hear every single transmission that's made over a school radio.
People can walk on top of each other. These weren't like real high-tech radios. So, for instance, maybe if I was talking and someone pushed a button, they wouldn't even have to be talking. They could just push the button and it would cancel out, what I was saying. It's just a lot of different things could keep them from being where you hear everything.
Did you ever miss any transmissions during your 6 years, for example, at that school when you have divided attention, like you're talking to someone or you're researching on your computer, anything like
Most
that?
definitely, and especially if, like, I would have someone in my office, if I had a parent or a student, I would a lot of times turn my radio down. Just, I would, not off, but down, and so you could definitely miss things.
What is a code red?
Immediate danger, lockdown. You need to get to safety.
When someone orders a code red, whose benefit are they doing it for?
Staff, students.
And what are teachers instructed to do when a code red is ordered?
They're to secure their room and secure their kids in the room.
That's if they can get into their room.
Correct.
So let's talk about when there's a fire alarm going off. Are teachers supposed to bring their keys outside of their classrooms?
They should secure their classroom when they're leaving for the fire drill. They should take their appropriate things with them and secure their door, and then be able to let the kids back in when they're finished.
Did there come a time where you heard someone order a code red on February 14, 2018?
Yes, I heard Deputy Peterson call code red.
Okay. And are you familiar with his voice?
I spoke with him daily.
How often, just so that they're clear? In the 6 years you were there, did you speak to him every day?
Daily.
Are there times when you speak to him more than once a day?
Most definitely.
Do you recognize his voice?
Most definitely.
When you heard him order a code red, was there any doubt in your mind he's the one who did so?
No doubt in my mind.
Now, as a result of him ordering a code red, did you do anything over the radio?
That's where, and I apologize, some of my dealing with all this, I've had some issues, and memory's been one of them, but I don't specifically remembering calling code red, but I know another assistant principal in his statement said he heard me call code red. So I don't, in the chaos of what's happening, I don't remember it myself, but another person did in his statement say that he heard me call it.
But if you did order that code red, would it have been because my client ordered the code red?
100%, because I heard it from him first.
Was there a time that you went to the video room to review surveillance video?
Correct. After, like I said, I had met Coach Stobley and we were going back, and Deputy Peterson got on the radio and asked me to go to the camera room to try to locate what was going on.
Do you remember him telling you specifically to go to the camera room to try to locate the shooters?
Correct.
And would you have gone to the video room had he not told you that?
No, I probably would not have thought of that. I would just been trying to get kids in to safety.
And who did you go to the video room with?
Mr. Greenleaf, our security specialist.
And between you and him, who knows how to operate the equipment in the video room?
He does. I did not know how to operate it.
And while he was on the equipment, what were you doing?
I was on the radio. I was sitting beside him. He was like in an area like this where the computer screen was, and I was sitting like beside him.
And were you speaking with anyone on your school radio?
Deputy Peterson.
And how long did this go on, if you can give an estimate, just ballpark?
It wasn't like very briefly. We had to rewind the film, and then when we first rewound the film, it was like just smoky, we couldn't really see much, and so we started back, and then I was on, as we saw things, we were reporting it to him. So it wasn't like 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes at least at that.
At least. So you can't give it a total ballpark,
I
but
can't.
At least 5 to 10 minutes.
Correct. I was on with him at least 5 to 10 minutes for sure.
Okay. But that's not your ballpark, right?
No, right.
You're saying that would be the minimum.
Correct.
Are you able to give like a maximum time?
I don't know. Everything was happening so fast, I don't know.
Was there ever a time during that, again, you called it a long process, right? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Was there ever a time that Deputy Peterson ever hang up or gave up on the process?
No, never.
Did it seem like he was trying to find out in real time where the shooter or shooters were located?
Yes.
That was your purpose with him?
Correct.
Did my client have any control over the video and where it was being rewound to?
No.
If you did learn at some point that Mr. Greenleaf didn't rewind it properly, and so you weren't actually giving the right information, correct?
We knew it was delayed, correct. It was not live.
But whatever information that Greenleaf was giving you, you were conveying that to my client, correct?
Correct.
Did you understand that he was then disseminating that information to those on the scene?
That Deputy Peterson was?
Yes.
We assumed he was, yes.
Okay. That's all I have. I thank you for coming in, sir.
Cross-examination, go ahead.
Thank you.
Hello, Ms. Morford, how are you doing?
Hello.
I tend to speak pretty quickly. If you need me to slow down, please just let me know. You're friends with Scot Peterson, right?
Yes, I am.
You still socialize with him?
No.
No?
No.
But you would categorize yourself as a friend?
When we were in school together, I would definitely consider him a friend.
Now, Deputy Peterson, your testimony has ordered or told you to go to the camera room, correct?
Correct.
And you're with Kelvin Greenleaf?
I wasn't with him at the time. I headed there, and I don't recall exactly where I ran into Kelvin, but somewhere we ran into each other, and we went into the main building.
And you said on direct that you have some memory issues related to this incident, correct?
Correct.
Is that because of the trauma associated with it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you remember some things, you don't remember other things?
Correct.
Okay.
That's why I tried to go back and look at some of my statements so I can remember things, because I have a lot of depositions.
Do you remember Mr. Peterson telling you when you're in the video room to look directly or to look at the 1200 building?
I don't recall that.
Is it possible he told you that?
I don't recall it. Again, Mr. Greenleaf was the one that went in and got on the camera and got it going. I was there watching.
You were there watching and then relaying the information?
Correct.
Now, you took part in Code Red drills, correct?
Correct.
The classes taught by a school board employee?
Correct.
And Mr. Peterson was part of that?
I don't know.
You don't know he was part of it?
Because we would have it in the auditorium. It would be big. Sometimes, because of things we'd have going on, as an administrator, I would be in and out of the meetings. I couldn't maybe sit there the whole time. So I honestly couldn't tell who was there, who was not there.
Typically with these meetings, though, the SRO, the head of the security on campus, would be there, right? You don't remember?
I don't know that.
Now, you testified on direct that Deputy Peterson called the Code Red.
Correct.
Isn't it true that Elliot Bonner is the first person to call Code Red?
I never heard Coach Bonner call Code Red.
And today you're stating that it was definitely Deputy Peterson that called it Code Red.
Correct.
Organize my notes here.
I'm good. I'm just intently listening.
Have you ever testified differently to that?
Not that I tried to go back and look at all my depositions. So not that I'm aware of.
Not that you're aware of. Would it be anything that might refresh your recollection?
Possibly.
Okay, so he may have testified differently. Just going to impeach him here. If I'm ever a witness and they say, is there something that will refresh my recollection, I'm going to say no. Nope, it won't help. I don't want to be impeached.
You remember giving a sworn statement on August 22nd of 2018 to a Detective Bonasaro?
No, I don't remember.
Might something refresh your recollection?
Please.
May I approach?
Sure. So the point of the exercise is just read whatever the document we're going to want you to read. Read it to yourself. Take your time. When you're done, if you look up, I'm sure the attorneys will have questions for you. What I don't want you to do is read out loud from the document. Just read it to yourself and see if that refreshes your memory. Okay?
If he says this doesn't refresh my memory, they basically can't proceed this line of questioning.
How far am I supposed to go?
That court reporter has like a suitcase and a
Saying
purse.
that I don't remember.
You don't remember who called the code red? Back on August 22nd, 2018. I'll show you the date.
Correct.
Okay, so this happened in February 14th of 2018.
Right.
So this is approximately 6 months later, and you don't remember who called it.
Okay.
But today, as we're in courtroom on June 21st, 2023, suddenly Mr. Peterson called the code red.
Correct. Well, again, I tried to go back and look at all my depositions, and I know in several of my depositions I said that Deputy Peterson called code red. And that's, because of memory, I'm trying to go back and look at what I said, because the farther back to that date would have been, I believe, I would remember.
Would you agree that you would remember closer to the date that it happened than today?
Correct.
And the other depositions, do you recall when they happened? Approximately, I'm not going to hold you to the date.
I mean, I had 1-2 days after the incident. I've had a lot.
Including up to April 26th of 2022?
Correct.
Now, you also called it code red, correct?
I don't remember, but another assistant principal said he heard me call it.
Now, with the school radio, as Mr. Eiglarch was asking, sometimes you heard transmissions, sometimes you would turn it down if you were in a parent meeting. Did you overhear Coach Feiss that day?
No, I did not.
Did you overhear Campus Monitor Medina that day?
I don't remember that.
Now, you stated under direct that the fire alarm was in Mr. Peterson's office. What does that mean?
That's where we would turn it off.
So, the master switchboard is
Yes,
in?
sir. Yes, sir.
And that's because he's the SRO, the head of the security.
I mean, I I don't know why, it's just that's where it was.
Now, you described on direct examination that he had a good relationship with kids. He was like a mentor to them?
I think so.
You saw it. It was a different relationship. It was almost like a relationship that a student may have with a teacher or an administrator.
Correct.
Now, you testified on direct that you headed towards the auditorium area. Why did you do that?
That's where my duty is for fire drill.
Okay. Now, as you headed towards the auditorium area from building 1, that's heading north, kind of towards the 1200.
Correct.
You ran into Brian Staub, who was a campus monitor, and he told you what was going on.
Correct.
Did you hear any shots that day?
Again, I don't recall that at all.
Now, you said that you were trying to get the kids back in the classroom. Is that correct?
After I saw Coach Stobley, correct.
And is that to try to protect the kids?
Correct.
Now, in code red drills, what is an assistant principal's job?
Our job is to seek shelter and
for just you?
For everyone.
So you did your job that day by trying to get the kids in to protect them?
Was trying to, correct.
Trying to. Now, on direct examination, the question was asked about Mr. Greenleaf in the video, and that Mr. Greenleaf incorrectly did the video. That's not what happened, though, right?
I don't know what you mean by incorrectly.
Well, that was the word, that was the question that was asked. Did Kelvin Greenleaf do it incorrectly?
Okay, no, I'm saying that it wasn't live. We had to rewind it.
So Mr. Greenleaf did it properly, he just couldn't see what was on the screen. Could you see what was on the screen? Because you were watching videos, right?
Correct. Not at the beginning, as I thought I stated, it was just all cloudy.
So it had to be rewound
Correct.
To see what happened.
Correct.
Do you recall telling Mr. Peterson that the video may be delayed?
I don't recall that.
You don't recall. Mr. Morford, is it kind of safe to say you don't remember a lot about February 14, 2018?
I've tried to forget a lot.
Understood. I understand.
People don't realize what we went through that day.
So as you're asked questions today, you're basing a lot of it off the transcripts, the depositions, things of that nature.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a good independent recollection of what actually happened, separate from the statements that you read?
I'm not sure I understand your
if
question.
you think about February 14th, 2018, can you remember in your brain, in your mind, what happened? Or is it just based upon what you're reading, the sworn statements you previously gave?
I think it's a combination of both.
Don't have nothing further for Mr. Walker.
No, you're right. He is. Thank you, sir. You may step down. Thank you very much.
Doesn't seem
While
like
he's
the
doing that, ladies
prosecution
and
got
gentlemen, we'll
much
take restroom break. Same admonition as always.
across there.
Please do not discuss the facts of the case, the evidence, the witnesses, or the testimony until we reach the end of the case. I'll tell you when that is. If you leave the notepads in your chairs and step in the back one moment, I'll be right back with you. Thank you.
Jury is leaving. We got a bathroom break. Let's see if there's any business here. We might have just a couple minutes. There's the
Okay, we're outside the presence of the jury. Real quick 5-minute restroom break. We'll be in recess for 5 minutes.
Okay. 5 minutes. So at 3:10, we're going to come back. Blackbird says, really wish you hadn't mentioned the line on the wall that sliced the judge's hair. It's there. I see it every time. I went this long and hadn't said anything, Blackbird. I'm sorry I ruined the rest of the trial for you. I think we're going to, this is basically what we're going to see throughout this. We're going to hear testimony from individuals who were there, both teachers and students who are going to say, either I heard the noises and I didn't know what they were, or I heard the noises and I knew what they were and I couldn't tell where they were coming from. You're going to see that over and over. I think they're going to have 22 people who testify just about that they couldn't tell where the noise was coming from. We've heard 2 so far. So I think we're going to hear a lot of those. By the end of it, it's going to sound very repetitious. You'll probably even get motions from the prosecution saying, hey, this is too much. It's all the same thing over and over and over. You're just piling on the same testimony a million times. Am I back on Monday? I will be back on Monday, Knoxville Agent. I will be gone tomorrow and Friday. So please don't let this trial end while I'm gone. Do whatever you have. No, don't do whatever you have to do. I'm not giving you like free license to go cause mayhem or something. But if you could arrange for the judge to take a day off, of his own free will and volition, that would be great. I don't have the full list of witnesses. I think who had it? They said 118 witnesses on the defense side, and just because they're on the list does not mean they're going to be called. So a lot of times we have people that are on the list who are subpoenaed but end up not being called. Yoga break, up and stretch, but this judge is not into yoga. We've had previous judges that will do good stretching, but for us it's not. The door's been opened. Greeners, what door are we talking about? For the jury? Let's see. Yeah, so 118 witnesses. Somebody out there has the list. Mary Murphy, you might be the one that has the inside scoop. I have not seen it myself. If you've got that, Mary, I'd love it if you just text it or link to it. Text to the burner phone. Just type !burner in chat, and that will give you my burner phone number. Let's see. Watch out, they might charge you too. There are recordings of the reported banging from the Titan. Tracy, here's what I want to hear. Is it rhythmic or is it like SOS type banging? Man. I just don't know. It must be suspended in the water. That is just awful. I hope they're running out of time. Really, they've got less than a day of oxygen left. That would just be horrific. Okay, it's like watching one of the space videos about Apollo or something. I read every 30 minutes for 3 minutes, Morse code, banging every 30 minutes. Who do you recommend that's showing this case? Just know, Debbie, that I don't know anyone else that does things exactly the way we do here. There are some other individuals in the true crime / LawTube community that are airing this case. I believe Uncivil Law, Kurt was in here earlier. There's some news channels that have it. Obviously, some of the big channels are carrying this as well. I don't want to send you somewhere and then you be offended by the way it's handled or something like that. I think what we do is pretty unique. So I don't know where you want to go to watch this. Obviously, it's going to be out there, a couple different places. Nobody else is going to give you the audio experience that I do though. I give you the best audio experience anywhere. Man, Kathleen, I hear the argument for it having imploded or failed under great pressure, but how do you explain the banging then that they're hearing? Imagine they're stuck at the bottom and can't control the sub because they forgot to charge their wireless PS3 controller. Yeah, live trial, that should pull it up. Live trial is one of the best search commands on YouTube to see who's airing it. Usually the trial itself, if you're searching for it, within the last, with a minute or two of it going live for the day is where you're going to find the best feeds. A lot of them don't put anything up until right before they go live or right after they go live. No one has an RA, Weather Watch, or a Matthew. That is one case I would not be able to do. Man, the dad that killed his 3 kids. Wow, that's a tough one. You think it's stuck in the Titanic? How horrific would that be? Sleeping Father trial was really quick. We were tempted to go join that one. Channel 7 shows this trial. So Selena K. There are a couple different places. I have to leave bright and early tomorrow morning. So we're talking like 6 o'clock in the morning. I've got to leave, and then I'm going to drive for 2 or 3 hours up to Virginia, and then that's when my day starts, and it's just run for the rest of the day. I think he did confess, or he talked about it when he was arrested, even. Just very clearly described what he did. Maybe no trial. Man. Veda, yeah, Aurora. It's tragic that there are so many places, so many states that have that sort of thing that's happened. PTO is canceled. Well, fine, Tommy. I quit. I've got to go. I'm sorry. Even my daughter, 21, is watching you daily with joy. That's awesome, Eva. I appreciate that. Ivan, we have a sound bite that I was going to play for you. Let's see. I think it's this one.
But what are the odds that they're scooping people up outside of this liquor store?
That's my soundbite for you, Ivan. What are the odds they're scooping people up outside your liquor store? We need a substitute. I have not figured out how to do that. Honestly, Content Lasagna, I'm super nervous. Obviously, I'm a little protective of my channel. It is so easy to run afoul of what is okay by the powers that be, and in a moment everything is gone. And I'm very cautious that way. I would hate to put that burden on someone else. And I also would hate to lose control of that myself. So I don't know how to do that. Get Brandy to jump in. She's got her own trial. She's covering Melly. Melly isn't done, is it? She's got more time. Yeah, there may be a point where we'll be able to get to having somebody fill in Mrs. RA or something like that. Why do I need a substitute? I've got to go to Virginia for the next 2 days, and I'm going to be so busy I will not be able to live stream. I'm going to take my I'll take my live view. This guy right here. Well, it helps if you can see maybe. I'll take this, and so I can live stream anywhere with this, but. The only problem is I need to do a couple more tests with it, because right now I have to set up a live stream and then build it. I've never tried to just have it turn on and go live on my channel. So I need to work on that and see how that works. But I'm going to be in Virginia tomorrow with a youth group for a couple days. I'll be back Saturday night after going to the water park, which I will not take this to. But we'll do that. If you have questions about different trials, one of the best places to go find the answers to is Discord. You can type !Discord in chat anytime we're live, and that link will pop up on your screen. You can run over there and get familiar with the Discord layout. It has pretty much every case you've heard of and a few that you haven't, and you can jump over there and just see everything. Thank you, Thomas, for posting that. That's the command anytime you need the Discord link in chat, and it will pop up. No tech at the water park. Yes. I can't. I think, first of all, it's an environment that I don't want to record, and I don't think they'd let me. Mary Murphy, what was I saying about you? Were you wondering if I was in Ohio? If so, the answer is yes. Mary, I was asking if you had the defense witness list. I have not seen it on this one. I was wondering if you could text it to my burner phone, if you had it, or text a link to my burner phone. I think there's like 118 people on it. We want to sort of cross them off as we go and see where we're at. Mrs. Ore is staying here, but she's going to be doing school and a few other things, so she cannot fill in, nor does she want to fill in. This is not her shtick. She has her own YouTube channel. Yeah, you can watch on another channel till I return, and there's nothing that says you have to come here. I realize there are a million places you could go to watch true crime online, and I appreciate that you spend it here. That's not lost on me. I appreciate that. Okay, here we go. We've got video coming back. No audio yet.
CF10A. I continue to have Ms. Goins, Mr. Killer, and Mr. Klinger present for the state. I continue to have Mr. Eiglarsh present with Mr. Peterson, who likewise is present. We are outside the presence of the jury. State, anything you need me to address before we resume with the defense presentation?
No.
Defense, anything you need me to address?
No, Your Honor.
How many more witnesses do you have?
We have 3 here. Don't know if we're going to get to all of them today. We're doing our best.
Okay, not a problem. And then, did you all have a discussion about what your preference would be for tomorrow?
We did, Your Honor. Kind of deferred to one another, but if I told Ms. Eiglarsh if the 12:30 time works for his clients, so they just work through the rest of the afternoon, that would be my personal preference, but whatever defense needs.
Yeah, I just don't want you to have to wait on me. So you want me to give the jurors tomorrow morning off, tell them to eat lunch on their own, and come back at 12, resume at 12:30 tomorrow?
That's fine.
Any objection to doing it that way?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, please bring the jury.
When will you finish your document?
We will finish tomorrow by 11:15.
Oh.
So we will have a normal 1 hour and 15-minute lunch break before we resume the trial at 12:30.
Hey, Judge. No, I'm in trial. I'm in, yeah.
Everyone's talking about their schedules. So Judge has a bunch of work to do in the morning.
Can I give you my office number? Are you? I'm not available.
Don't give us your office number right now. Yes, we have watched some civil cases before. We watched Gwyneth Paltrow civil case. It's not our favorite thing to do, but with the right civil case, we may follow it. Thomas has a full-time job as well. He's a busy man. I can't expect him to step in there. I wish I could. He has his own channel as well, which you ought to subscribe to. You really should. The link to Mrs. R.A.'s channel you can find by just typing !MRS, and there it is. That's Homeschool Ground Zero. It is a homeschool channel, so that would be good. WSVN does seem to have good audio on this trial. Might be a good option to watch if the other channels you've looked for don't have good audio. I still work on all the audio and try to improve it all I can for you guys wherever I'm getting it. Thank you. Stars Hollow. Defense Witness List PDF is on Discord. I'll have to pop over there and grab that. Who is it?
Jurors entering.
Okay, come on in. That joke never gets old. It never does.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Come on in. Ladies and gentlemen, once you are back at those same seats, you may be seated. All the parties may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you using the notepad, I will give you a moment to get the notepads back out.
We have a link right here for Weather Watch's gear. I happen to have my very own Weather Watch
Ladies and gentlemen,
shirt.
when we took our
Highly
restroom
recommend
break,
it.
we were in the middle of the defense presentation. We're going to resume at that point. Defense, when you are ready, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense next calls Melanie Weber. Melanie Weber, please.
Did they show the jury again? Oh my goodness! I was watching chat. I did not see that. My count was that would put us at 9 for the day. 9 times they shown the jury, but one of them we showed everyone on the jury, front, back row, everybody. Man, the joke gets old. But I'm a dad, so I can do those jokes over and over. Possible student. I'm not trying to guess at her age.
Come all the way up here to the witness stand, please. Once you reach it, but before you have a seat, if you can just stop and look at me. Raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Please be seated. And once you are seated, if I can get you to scoot that chair forward as far as it will go, can you please state your full name and spell your full name?
Yes. Melanie Weber, MELANIEWEBER.
Spell your last name one more time?
1B. 1B.
1B.
Yes.
Understood. Mr. Igosh, you may inquire.
Do you prefer that I call you Melanie or Miss Weber?
Melanie is fine.
Okay, Melanie. Do you work? Are you in school?
I just graduated from Florida State.
Congratulations, Melanie.
Thank you.
And what was your major?
Biology.
And what are you studying to become?
I just applied to med school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you ever attend Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School?
Yes.
Back on February 14, 2018, day of the shooting, what class were you in?
I was in Miss Hertzfeld's drama class.
Okay. What building is that in?
The 700 building.
Okay. Let me show you a photograph of a portion of the 700 building and ask if you can identify where your class was.
I can't reach it. It's like that door right there. Or no, this one.
Okay. So it's to the, I guess, to the closest to you, next to the tree, correct?
Oh yeah. That's
Would it be right at the other side of this pole? Is that another way to say it?
That's the door.
Okay. That's on the first floor, correct?
Yes.
And what kind of class was Miss Hertzfield's?
It was a drama class.
And were you one of the ones participating in that musical they had going there?
Yes.
All right. And then what happens next?
So we were rehearsing for our spring show, and then the fire alarm went off. And so me and a bunch of my friends in the drama room responded to it like we would any other fire alarm, and we walked outside in response to it going off.
And if you can show us on that same photograph what your path was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we walked out the door and started crossing this patch of grass kind of diagonally over to the parking lot where we usually gather for fire drills.
Show the jurors where the 1200 building is.
Right here.
Okay. So is your classroom facing the 1200 building?
Yes.
Are you right across from the 1200 building?
Yes.
And what happens next as you're walking?
As we were walking, I want to say we were right in the middle of this grass patch. That's when we heard the gunshots.
Okay. And how many did you hear?
Around 7.
Did you recognize them as gunshots right away?
No.
What did you think that they were?
At first, I thought that they were firecrackers or some kind of explosive.
And what did you do in response?
We immediately turned around and ran back into our classroom.
All right. And how were you feeling in that moment?
Scared.
And when you heard the shots, as you indicated, between the 12 and the 700 building where you identified, where did you think that they were coming from?
Since it was so loud and the sound was echoing and like reverberating off of all the buildings, I initially thought that they were coming from the soccer field.
Okay. Let me show you what is marked as Defense Exhibit F. Can you show the jurors if this is the 1200 building and this is the 700 building?
Yes.
Where would the soccer field be?
Over there.
Okay. Is a soccer field also used as a football field?
Yes.
Okay. Now, that area is very, very west of the 1200 building, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that a yes?
Yeah.
That noise
yes.
you can't take.
Sorry, yes.
And did you ever think that the shots then were contained inside a particular building?
No.
Did you ever think that those shots were coming from the 1200 building?
No.
And did you ever see my client on the scene?
I believe I did.
Okay. And do you remember anything about seeing him there?
Yes, and I don't know if my memory is 100% accurate, but I remember when I walked out into the patch of grass in between the freshman building and the 700 building, I saw him kind of on the side of the freshman building facing the parking lot. Mm-hmm. I believe there might have been a golf cart that he was getting out of, and it seemed like he was, I don't know, running towards it or something like that.
All right. Anything else that you recall?
I feel like I remember him, I don't know, maybe he had like a gun or reach for it or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know. My memory isn't, it was 5 years ago.
So you believe you might have seen him reaching for the gun, but you're not sure? Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And you had mentioned the word echo or echoey. Mm-hmm. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us what you mean by that.
I don't know, it was echoing.
Had you experienced that before the shooting ever, where you hear a loud sound in that area and you're not sure where the sound is coming from?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So, but on the day in question, you described it as echoey, correct?
Yes.
And can you describe the configuration of the buildings which might cause that?
All of the buildings at Stoneman Douglas are kind of, Stoneman Douglas, even though it's made up of multiple buildings, it is just kind of like a big square. So there are a lot of courtyards and a lot of, I don't know, walls that sounds could just bounce off of, because especially in the patch of grass where I was right in between two buildings, then there are more buildings over here. So it's just, an area where the noise can bounce off.
Got it. I thank you very much and good luck with vet school.
Yeah, thank you.
Cross-examination, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. How are you doing, Melanie?
I'm good, how are you?
Not too bad. I tend to speak pretty quickly. If you need me to slow down, just let me know.
Okay.
She's got him beat.
I'm going to show you a picture. Melanie, I'm showing you what's already in evidence as states 17. And your screen is actually interactive, Your Honor. Can we please put on the annotator? So what that means with
This can go to everybody?
Yes, Your Honor. You can mark when I ask certain questions. You can actually use the pencil function. So I know that Mr. Eigler showed you a picture of where your classroom was. Looking from the aerial, do you recognize where the 700 building is?
Yeah, can I draw on it?
Yeah, please.
Okay, is it
next,
this one right here? Ooh,
okay.
That right there?
Now, approximately, looking from the aerial view, where would you say your classroom was?
Right here.
Okay. And when you came out of the classroom, if you could just maybe change colors, whatever color you want, see on the bottom.
Okay.
What was the track? Like, where did you go?
Okay, is this sidewalk in the middle new? Because
I can't really answer that.
Okay. Just because I'm kind of confused by the image, because I just remember this all being grass.
Let me ask you this then. Do you ever remember the 1200 building?
Yes.
Okay, do you see the 1200 building?
Yes. Okay.
So looking at, well, let me show you in that Mark showed you. I just knocked it up. It's over. Do you see that concrete?
Okay, yeah. Sorry, that wasn't there when I went to school there, so I was just confused by the image. Okay, yeah. So I probably walked out here and got to around here.
So you got to about there. Where, and if you could mark just with the next, approximately where was Mr. Peterson when you saw him?
I want to say around here.
Did you see him on the concrete area there?
I can't remember if he was on the concrete or on the grass, but I definitely remember him being in this general vicinity.
Okay. Going back to the concrete, you said it wasn't there when you were at MSD. Are you sure about that? Do you remember that?
I don't know. It was 5 years ago. I mean, this sidewalk was definitely here, but this concrete cutting through the grass here, I don't know if I remember that.
Okay, but it could possibly have been there. It's possible it could have been there. I'm asking, is it possible?
Possible that I saw him.
No, I'm just asking about the concrete, just the walkway. Is it
it's possible, yeah. I just don't 100% remember.
Okay. Because you said earlier on direct examination from Mr. Eyeglass, your memory is not exactly 100%. It happened a long time ago, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you come out, you're following the line up there, and that's when you heard the noises, correct?
Yes.
How loud were they?
They were very, very loud. I had never heard gunshots before, so
my next question.
yeah, it was very loud. At first, I thought that something was exploding.
Okay. As soon as you heard those shots, did you immediately turn around and run back to Ms. Hertzfeld's class?
It's interesting that you asked that because according to my memory, I think I was in shock at first trying to figure out what was going on, because if someone was lighting firecrackers, and that's what or like explosives, and that was what I initially thought. I don't know, I was just trying to take in my surroundings and figure out what was going on. I feel like I remember pausing and being like, what was that? And then saying to myself, I probably should run back into the classroom. But when I watched a recording, the surveillance footage, it seemed like I turned around immediately and ran back. So I'm not sure.
So, well, let me ask you this then. Was your concern when you heard that sound of letting me get back to the classroom as quickly as possible? Was it your safety? Was that your first thought?
Yeah, yes.
Was it, let me look around, let me see exactly where this is coming from?
No.
Were you focused on the 1200 building, for instance? Or are the shots coming out of there?
No, I was. No, not specifically.
Now, at some point in time, did you see another person standing next to Mr. Peterson? Do you remember that?
Yes, I did see another person.
Do you remember his name?
I think Mr. Greenleaf.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you at any point in time see Mr. Greenleaf waving the students back into the 700?
Yes, I did. That was when I was walking out before I heard the gunshots. I saw him waving at us, and I kind of stopped in my tracks because I was like, "Why is he waving at us?" And that was when I heard the gunshots.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're walking out, you see Mr. Greenleaf waving, gunshots, immediately run back.
Yes, that's correct.
And you said you heard, would you remember to be 7 shots?
Around that number.
More than 2 or 3?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this defense attorney is writing or just
When you
crossing
turned
things
around
off on his
to
list.
run back to the 700, did other students join you and also running back in that direction?
Yes.
And that's running away from the 1200 building? The direction of the 1200 building?
Yeah, running away from the direction of the 1200 building.
You testified on direct examination that you saw, you believe you saw Mr. Peterson kind of on the side of the building where you marked the X.
Yes.
Which way was he facing when you saw him?
He was facing the freshman building.
And you said he might have had his gun.
Yes.
Did that cause any alarm in your brain?
I honestly don't know. Because I think I saw Mr. Greenleaf waving before I noticed, you know? Yeah, before I noticed that.
So was your attention on Mr. Greenleaf, but then
Yes.
kind of glanced at Mr. Peterson, then heard the loud noise?
Yes.
So it happened very rapidly?
Yes, that sounds like the accurate sequence of events.
Okay. Your Honor, I'm looking further for this witness.
Thank you.
Based on that, any redirect?
Yes, sir. Just
Go ahead.
Just a few questions. On cross-examination, you said your memory's not 100% on all details, right?
Yes.
Because it happened 5 years ago, correct?
Yes.
This was very traumatic for you, correct?
Yes.
Did you give a statement to anybody many years ago?
Like an official statement?
Yeah. Did anybody come and give you a statement and find out what you knew?
No. Well,
Okay.
yeah. I did talk to people in the office, but I don't think that was an official statement.
Yeah, I'm referring to somebody like law enforcement sitting you down and saying, tell us what you know. Do you remember that?
Okay, yeah, that did happen.
Okay, many years ago, correct?
Yes.
Closer to the incident, correct?
It was in the fall of my senior year, so 6 months after the incident, roughly.
Okay. And while you say your memory isn't 100% on certain details, is it 100% on hearing what you thought was firecrackers?
Yes.
Is it 100% on hearing what you thought were firecrackers coming from the soccer field?
Yes.
Is it 100% on hearing what you thought were firecrackers from outside?
Yes.
And was it 100% in your mind not coming from the 1200 building?
Yes. Yeah. I thought they were coming from everywhere. I really didn't know.
Everywhere,
Yeah.
correct? Thank you.
Based on that, any recross?
Just one clarification.
Go ahead.
When I was asking you questions, you called it the freshman building. Is the freshman building and the 1200 building the same building?
Yes, the freshman building is a nickname.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, is the witness excused?
Yes, thank you.
You may step
Thank
down.
you.
Thank you very much. While she's doing that, defense, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense next calls Deputy Brian Miller.
Hey, first law enforcement. First law enforcement for the defense here, Brian Miller. I think Miss Weber did a great job. Good luck to her in med school as well. That's exciting for her. Cameraman needs to iron us down just a tiny bit. The wall is blindingly bright. We are hearing about some reports of something happening in Paris, getting some video on the ground. The Latin Quarter, partial collapse of buildings, at least 16 people injured, 7 critical.
Sir, if I could have you come all the way up here to the witness stand, please. Yes, sir. Once you reach it, but before you have a seat, you can stop and look at me, please. Yes, sir.
29 people
Raise
injured.
your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Please be seated.
Thank you.
So once you are seated, if I can get you to scoot that chair all the way forward as far as it will go.
Yes, sir.
If you could please state your full name and spell your full name.
Brian Miller, B-R-I-A-N.
Good afternoon, Mr. Miller. How are you employed?
I'm sorry, sir.
How are you employed, sir?
I'm a sergeant with the Broward Sheriff's Office.
Okay. And
There's
how
the
long have
jury.
you been a sergeant with the Broward Sheriff's Office?
I was promoted in 2004.
2004. And when did you start with the Broward Sheriff's Office?
1986.
So you've got, I don't want to do the math, how many years do you have
A
in it?
little over 36 years.
Okay. And where are you assigned to today?
Central Broward.
And as a sergeant assigned to Central Broward, do you supervise any other officers?
Not at this time, no, sir.
Okay. And I want to take you back to February 14, 2018. Do you remember learning that there was something going on at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas?
Yes, sir.
What drew your attention to that?
A radio call came over by Deputy Peterson about shots fired, possible fireworks. We heard that, and that's when I started responding.
Okay. So what caused you to go to the school was hearing my client make an announcement over the radio, correct?
Yes, sir.
You had no plans of going to that school but for his announcement, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you go alone or with someone?
I was by myself.
And
I
what
mean, there
happened-
was other cars leaving the station at the same time.
Okay. What happened next?
I was on my there. I was going lights and siren, which we refer to as Code 3. Deputy Peterson then started closing off like a perimeter of the area, not wanting vehicular traffic or pedestrians. And since Parkland has 4 cars, 5 cars normally, as a sergeant, I normally take perimeter spots for such things. So as I was crossing the main road, I slammed on my brakes to try to keep the cars, because I had cars behind me that were normal people, not law enforcement.
Let me ask you, reporting shots fired or even possible shots fired as soon as you hear them, is that what you're trained to do?
Yes. I mean, as soon as you hear it, yeah, you call it out.
Is there ever a training where they told you, sit on it and wait and not report it right away?
No, sir.
And so, tell us what happened next.
As I was pulling up, I heard several shots. My window was open. I stopped. It appeared to come from the football field, from the sound that I heard.
Let me just take it one step at a time.
Sure.
Had you stopped your vehicle before you heard the shots?
I don't recall if I was still moving or stopped completely.
Okay. And where were you located when you heard the shots?
My car was going on the westbound side. If you were to look at the school, there are gates. One, it would have been where the lock gate for the parking lot is.
Okay. And would you be able to identify it on a map?
Yes, sir.
Put you on the spot, but you think you might be able to do so?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to show you what is Defense Exhibit F. And just take a good look at that.
Maybe we could get a bigger poster.
First, just take a look at it. Let me know if you can kind of identify where it was that you were when you heard shots.
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us where you were, sir?
I was coming here, and this is where I stopped.
Okay, so to the right of the D in Holmberg Road, is that what you're
Yes, sir.
pointing to?
Yes.
I don't think that D is
Okay.
actually there
In
on
that
the
area.
road.
And that would have put you north of the 1200 building?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. How many shots did you hear initially?
I don't remember. Several. Could be 3. I don't know.
And could you tell where they were coming from?
I thought it was the football field.
And just so we're clear, if you can take a look at this again, where is the football field as you're relating it?
I'm sorry. Here.
Somewhere over there.
Yes.
Okay. Did you believe that those shots were contained within a particular building or in an open area?
I couldn't tell. It was reverberating off the sound, and I couldn't tell where it just sounded to the west, and that's.
Your word was reverberating. Easy
Yes,
for
sir.
you to say. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And what's the next thing that you did?
From when I heard the shots, I went to the back of my vehicle, to the right passenger. That's where my vest was. I put on my vest. I took out my gun. I was trying to scan to see. At this point, I didn't hear any more shots. I was asking Deputy Seward, Seward, S-E-W-A-R-D, who recently passed away. I'm sorry, had passed away. But anyways, he was there, and I said, "Where did you hear the sounds?" And he was pointing towards the football field as well.
Okay, so he corroborated your thought process that these shots were coming from the football field, correct?
Yes, and then we heard stuff on the radio that made us even more so.
Made you even what?
I believe so, more so because Deputy Kratz, I believe it was, that called out that there was shots fired, and he was in the football field.
Okay, so let me just step back. Were you monitoring your radio on the way to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School?
Yes.
And based upon that, did you have any real-time intelligence of precisely where the shooter or shooters were located?
No.
you are aware that BSO operates on a separate system than Coral Springs, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you later come to learn that these radios were not patched with each other?
I don't recall. I don't remember us ever being on the same channel with them, if that's what you're asking. I'm sorry.
Okay. And when you get to the scene, did you know whether you were looking for one shooter, two shooters, multiple shooters?
No, we did not have that information.
Are you trained that unless you have information telling you otherwise, to believe that there could be multiple shooters on campus?
Unless you have information, otherwise you don't know.
And even though you thought the sounds were coming from the football field, do you say, okay, there must be just one shooter on the football field?
No, sir.
Tell the jurors what you were thinking in real time.
Well, you're at overload. You believe that's where it is, and then I heard that there was a shooting victim in the football field as well. That's, again, just reaffirming my belief.
When you arrive, do you just start running towards the football field or not?
No, I blocked the traffic. I have, like I said, cars behind me. I have Deputy Hanks approaching. He's, because of the traffic backup, he's running on foot. And I'm yelling to him to go up further ahead of me where I see Goolsby and I think Perry, and I can't believe who the other ones were already going inside the building. Or not, sorry, not the building, the gate was approaching towards they were towards the west of me.
I just want to make sure we heard you correctly. You didn't see them going into any particular building.
No, sir. No, they were going through the gate, and it appeared, in my observation from, again, where I'm at, it appeared they were going towards the football field.
And were you continuously trying to monitor your police radio to gather more real-time intelligence?
Of course, you monitor all the time. I was trying to transmit to Hanks, and my radio wasn't working.
Tell the jurors about that. What was wrong with your radio that day?
When you key up, it would like make a sound like bonk, bonk as you were keying.
What is keying? Tell the jurors
When
what
you
keying is.
press the mic to talk into it for someone to hear, it would make a tone. But it would not only do you can't talk, you can't hear with it going over it. They refer to it as throttling, but I don't. For the fact, I can't tell you that's the term. That's what the term I was told it was. But it wasn't working. I mean, I would key up multiple times, and then occasionally it would work. And if you didn't speak when that time it did work, you would go back to it, just doing that again.
Right after you got out of your vehicle, did you put your vest on?
When I went, yes, I went around to where my vest wasn't put on. Yes, sir.
And did you take a tactical position of cover?
Yes, I was behind my vehicle.
Explain to the jurors, are you trained to do that?
Yeah, at this point you don't know where the shooter is. I took a position of cover behind my vehicle and looked and see if I could see where the shooting was coming from. But he never fired again, so I didn't from there.
Are you trained to have to wait till gunfire is coming right at you with certainty before you're taking a position of cover?
No, I did it immediately. Well, I was putting on my vest also. I wasn't going to stand up and do it with, in the open.
And that's how they train you to do that, correct?
Yes, we're trained for cover. We practice shooting behind cover and concealment.
Okay. And tell us how you're feeling. This is not, we're all calm in this courtroom, right? How are you feeling today?
Oh, yes.
How does how you're feeling today differ from how you were feeling when you're on that scene?
Oh, your heart's pumping. You're overwhelmed. It's a lot. You're trying to take in a lot.
And does that affect your ability to perceive things and perform effectively?
I wouldn't know you as far as physically or mentally.
Yeah, whatever. I'm just curious how it affected you. We're hearing, I just want to know how it affected you.
I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, we were doing what we were doing.
Okay. And what happened next? You believe that it's coming from the football field.
Yes.
And then what else do you do?
All right. I tried to speak to Hanks. I told Seward see if he could get on the radio. I didn't know if it was my radio failing individually to see if he could get more units to block where we were at. So we were able. I was calling for a helicopter. I was calling for K9. I had Coral Springs Police Department arriving to my location where I was at.
Where did you want K9 and helicopter to go to?
To my location, because as soon as we found out, where we could track, I would then start from there. 'Cause since we've started a perimeter setup, that would be the next thing, because if he's in the football field, we would be tracking that direction.
Okay. And other than you, do you recall who else was taking positions of cover by the football field?
As far as cover, I couldn't, no, Seward was with me. But as far down, all I could see the officers going in. I didn't see any, at that point, anybody on cover.
Did there come a time when you were on scene that you learned that Coral Springs Police Department was getting different information than BSO?
Yeah, I found that out later, not during it, no.
Okay.
They came up and asked me about cutting a gate.
Okay.
About what?
Cutting a gate,
Thank you.
a lock on a gate, I'm sorry.
And what happened next? What is the next thing that you did?
I tell them that where my guys are going in so we don't have an issue. And I said there's a gap between the buildings in front of the gate they were cutting. And I direct Seward to go with them. So if we could get our radios back, at least we'd have ability to transmit, what we're doing. But
Did the way that the radios were failing you, did that hinder your abilities on the scene?
oh, absolutely. I mean, you can't communicate back and forth. It's a problem. It's a safety issue. You can't warn anybody where you're at. It became real difficult. It was very frustrating.
Did you ever have problems with the radio prior to that day?
In Parkland, yes.
Tell the jurors about the problems in Parkland.
You could be in the station and they could call you and you wouldn't hear it on your radio. You could try transmitting on your radio. It just wouldn't work. You could be in different areas throughout the city that the radio didn't work all the time.
Did you complain to supervisors about the radio?
Oh, yeah, they were aware of it. Matter of fact, I was trying to get them to put a repeater at the station at least so we would have more power.
And how long did you remain in a position of cover?
I stayed at that position because I was, as the sergeant, part of my job is the inner-outer perimeter. So with a not working radio, I could at least see where people were responding and going and try to work from there.
So do you have an estimation about how long you stayed in your position of cover?
20 minutes in my position, maybe.
Okay. And was Officer Seward with you remaining in that position as
No,
well?
he went in with Coral Springs when they cut the gate. I sent him with them.
Okay. And did you ever go into the 1200 building?
No, I was assigned a different task.
Okay. And are you aware of Scot Peterson's performance as a professional?
Yeah, I've worked with him before many times.
Tell the jurors about that.
Very professional. I believe, matter of fact, he was SRO or Detective of the Year a couple times. I worked details with him at the school probably 4 or 5 times that year. And he's very professional.
Did you have any contact with him after the shooting?
Yes, I ran into him the following day at the crime scene.
Well, not yet. That's over with. Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead.
What's your next question? He answered your question, sir. He ran into him the following day. What's your next
And is there
question?
anything that you said to him?
Yeah, I just said I thanked him for what he did, and he was very upset. He was, he was very distraught over the whole issue, and I was consoling him.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Cross-examination, go ahead.
Let me guess, he talks
Good afternoon,
quickly.
sir.
How are you, sir?
I speak quickly. If you need me to slow down, just let me know.
Yes, sir.
Okay, slow down there. Whoa.
I know
easy.
you stated it, but I think I missed it. How long were you the sergeant in Parkland before 2018?
I was there probably a year and a half.
And who was your predecessor? Who did you take over for?
I don't know her name. I'm sorry.
Whoever that sergeant was, did they gave you a book about active shootings in
No, Lieutenant DeVita gave me a book.
Lieutenant DeVita did, okay. And in that book was kind of like a plan of action if there was an active shooting in Parkland.
It had the policies, it had photographs, and then on some sheets had the main intersections.
with that information, you actually met with Mr. Peterson at MSD to go over that information with him.
Yes, that I had received the book. I was told as a new supervisor, I went to every school and to meet with the SRO.
So you actually met with Mr. Peterson at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas?
Yes.
And you walked the grounds with him?
Yes, he was showing me around.
And the purpose of that conversation was to discuss if, worst case scenario, an active shooting occurs, this is the plan.
It was basically to familiarize me with the school, but to be honest with you, like, if there was an incident there, he says the best place for like the command post is actually where we put the command post of the shooting. He says this is where it should go. I mean, he showed me things, but the school is so big. I mean, to be honest with you, it was hard to remember the buildings as it was.
But Mr. Peterson actually gave input into if, God forbid, an active shooting ever happens, this is what we should do. We
didn't discuss what we should do as the active shooter. We had talked about an incident. I mean, we then talked about the operational location for the command place.
And that input was actually given by Mr. Peterson about where the...
He suggested it, yes.
Okay. Now, when you arrived, I'm going to show you a map, Your Honor, if I can just use the projector. This can be shown. And Sergeant, that screen is actually interactive, so you can actually mark some of the things that we're about.
Okay.
Let me just zoom out. Let me see if I can erase what's already on it.
The cameraman has become
So with the
extremely
pencil button,
lazy
you can actually
this afternoon.
utilize it.
He may be
So
asleep.
when you got on campus, you testified under direct that you, not on campus, on the Holmberg.
Yes.
You slammed on your brakes.
Yes.
Where was that? Can you just mark that with an X?
Do I hit the pencil first?
No, you're good to go. You can just mark it.
Okay. About there.
Okay. So that's kind of like the east side.
But I'm on this, I'm sorry, I'm on this side of the road.
Okay, so let me erase it. I'll
Okay.
just start over.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Let me mark it and you tell me if it's correct.
That's not how
Yes,
it
sir.
works.
Around there.
Yes,
So
sir.
on the west side.
Yes, sir.
That's where you slammed on the brakes.
Yes, sir.
To block the intersection.
Yes, sir.
And that's after you heard over dispatch from Mr. Peterson to shut down the intersection. So
Yeah, I was, it doesn't have your map. I was further down, say here, according to where your map would be.
Okay.
When he was calling, that's when we're coming at a good speed. So that was my reaction time.
Now, how does it work? You're a sergeant, he was a deputy.
Yes.
But in terms of an incident like this, the first responding officer, the first officer there can assume command, basically.
Oh, he was the instant commander, without a doubt, yes.
So even though you outranked him, he was calling the shots because he was there first.
Yes.
So when he told you, lock down the intersection, that's what you did.
Well, I had, like I had previously said, we only have 4 or 5 cars in Parkland, and it doesn't have a lot of cars. So when there's any type of a crime, any type of a burglary, a robbery, I had to do that, just so we would be able to actually cover it.
Because with 4 or 5, it isn't, a perimeter typically would require more than 4 or 5.
Yes, sir. And that's if everybody was available too at the time.
Understood. Now, when you're on Holmberg Road over here, you thought the shots were from kind of like the football field, right?
Yes.
Or buildings around the football field?
It could have been anywhere from this, can I touch it?
Yes, please.
Okay. This building, anything in here. This is where the sound I was hearing.
Okay, so it was coming from the southwest of your position?
Yes, because I'm knowing after the fact building, I am to the northeast of it, that corner.
Northeast shots to the southwest, but you're
Yes,
to
sir.
the northeast of where you think the shots are coming from.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you arrived on scene, how many shots did you recall hearing?
I didn't count them. It was several. I don't know.
And those are the only shots you heard the entire time?
Never heard any more.
Okay, so you're there for a couple, well, were you there for a couple seconds when the shots?
I was pulling up. I couldn't tell you if the vehicle was still moving or I had come to a complete stop.
Were you in the building when you heard the shots? Your window was down, right?
My window was down. I don't recall if I was in, the door was open or not. I couldn't tell you.
When you were in the car,
Yes.
were you focused looking south with your head to the left, looking south to the campus?
I was looking in my rearview mirror when I was making sure no one was hitting me, because when I came to a very abrupt stop from a pretty fast speed.
So when you heard those shots, you weren't looking towards the campus, you were looking in the
No,
rear
I just was hearing the sound and where the sound sounded like it came from.
And you never heard shots again that day?
No, sir.
Now, we just discussed that the first deputy on scene issues the commands.
It's the person that has the most knowledge. It's not always the first deputy on scene, but I would have, because it's being a school, he's familiar with the school, the locations and stuff. Until he's relieved by somebody else, he's the incident commander.
So he was calling the shots, though, when you got there?
Yes.
Okay. And as the first deputy, or the one with the most, that's the real-time intelligence, right?
No, I mean, real-time intelligence is I would have compared to again, it's knowing after the fact. If I would have, the real-time intelligence would have been knowing the shooter was in what building, where the victims were and all that. That would have been, that's different. But what we're getting is, as we're approaching, as it's developing.
The person to whom you look for real-time intelligence, though, are the deputies that are right there, right?
I'm looking for anyone who has the information, whether if it was Deputy Peterson or with communications or with anybody, whoever can give me the updated as it was happening.
Now, you also testified under direct examination that the football field, you thought the shots were from the football field.
Yeah, that's where I thought it was from, sir.
You also heard Deputy Kratz call out that there is a victim shot near the football field.
Yes, there were.
Did that call out from Deputy Kratz play into why you thought it was over that far west?
I'm sure it's all part of when you take in everything, it's your senses. It's not just one thing. I mean, that is part of it. That's why when I requested for a helicopter and canine, we would be proceeding, and that was my thinking that, okay, as soon, once I have this set up and the dog is there, we're going to start searching for the shooter.
Now, you just, on direct examination, there were questions in regards to the radios throttling.
Yes, sir.
You heard the dispatch the call out from Mr. Peterson about shots fired.
I heard it from Deputy Peterson saying it.
Yes, and you heard from Deputy Kratz about the football field.
Yes.
So you were hearing some in the beginning.
Some of it, not everything, but yes.
Now, you testified that you saw Goolsby and Perry go inside the gate.
Yes, they went through the gate and they were moving towards.
Can you mark what gate you're talking about?
Is that right if I do it like that? You can, there, yes.
Okay, so the other entrance, the entrance that's west to that, there's a gate that closes off.
Right, and they were headed that kind of direction.
Got it. And you actually could see them from where you were?
Yes, I could see them going.
And Deputy Seward is with you for when you first get there, correct?
He's with me until Coral Springs goes into the other direction.
So when Coral Springs is heading down towards the east side of the 1200 building, you send Seward
with them.
Can you just track their path?
They went this way.
Now, even though you were the sergeant at Parkland, you're not the SRO from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, correct?
No, I'm not the SRO. No, sir.
Based upon the information from Mr. Peterson about locking down the intersection, did that play into why you stayed in that position for the period of time that you did?
Well, my main reason was to stop the traffic and get that under control. I could see several vehicles in front of me, knowing that we only have so many. I'm assuming most of my cars are there. Okay, so I don't believe there's anybody going to be right behind me. And if the shooter is out in this football field, I don't want cars and people going along there either. I want to block it off.
So was that coupled with Mr. Peterson telling you lock down that road?
Yeah.
Because if Mr. Peterson locked down Pine Island, which is, you can see on the right side, it would
I would have stopped there if I could have stopped there in time.
Stop where? I'm sorry.
I would have stopped at the Pine Island Road if that was feasible at the point. My going up as far as I did was just reaction time. I'm sorry.
Got it. So for you, the time it took you to basically stop
Yes,
your
sir.
car, you were in a squad car?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, how far would you estimate you were from the 1200 building?
I'm over 100 yards from my car to the very corner of the building, I would assume.
Now, on direct examination, you stated shots were never fired again, so I didn't move. What did you mean by that?
Well, if I kept hearing shots, you would move the direction, but I didn't hear any more.
So are you trained that when shots are fired, you move towards the sound of shots?
Yeah, you're supposed to, as you can, when you can.
And if shots have stopped, then you collect real-time intelligence or look for other stimuli to act upon.
You're trying to determine where, if you can. I mean, again, it's just because you have to determine where. And like, I would be very cautious on coming from where I'm at because I would be so wide open on how I would approach that.
So does that mean that if you're right near the building, if you're 10 feet away from the building, you would be in a better position to kind of go flush against the building as opposed to being 100 yards away?
Calls for speculation, Judge.
Yeah, that's sustained. Go ahead, sir. Ask your next question.
On direct examination, you were asked if you ever went into the 1200 building, and you said you were assigned a different task. What task was that?
I went to set up the command post.
And where on this did you set up the command post?
There.
I misstate. Can you?
Oops, sorry, it went to a line, but at the end in the Pine Island Road.
I changed it to green. Can you just mark with an X where the command post is set up? Okay, so actually on Pine Island Road.
That's, yes.
Okay, that's the command post where Mr. Peterson recommended if anything should go down.
We talked to it be on that road over in that area. But I wasn't the one that deemed it to be there, just so you know. I was assigned to go there.
You were assigned to go there?
Yes, I did not deem that to be it. The then incident commander was Captain Jordan.
Captain?
Jordan.
Okay. Just one moment, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
I have nothing further for the sergeant.
Based on that, any redirect?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Sergeant Miller, before you went to the, thank you, Judge. Before you went to the command post, I think you said earlier you were in a position of cover for about 15 to 20 minutes, correct?
Yes, I was over in that area.
All right. And when my client locked down the school, did you think that was a prudent action?
Yes, that's a,
Objection, Your Honor.
Yeah, that's sustained.
Based on your training, do you believe that that was consistent with how you've been trained?
yes, during an active shooter that locked down the school, yes.
Tell the jurors why, in this particular circumstance, that would have been something consistent with your training.
You don't want any movement to go through the school. I mean, you want to secure the children or the people in the location where they're at, so if the shooter is out and about, it's less chance of getting more victims or targets.
And while my client was the incident commander at first, I think you mentioned just briefly to the prosecutor that, is it Captain Jordan that took over?
Yes, and then there was another one after that.
Was that Colonel Poland?
Yes, he was the last one.
So when a higher ranking person arrives on the scene, they assume the role as incident commander, correct?
Again, it was not only so much the higher ranking, but with the experience, I believe Colonel Poland was a SWAT team commander as well, so I think that's why he assumed that.
And the highest ranking person who serves as incident commander, is responsible for conducting the debriefing. Is that correct?
Yes.
No object outside the scope.
No, it is outside the scope. That's overruled. Go ahead, sir. You can answer the question.
Yes, the incident commander should have done a
It is
debriefing.
outside the scope.
Were
but
you
can
ever
answer.
debriefed?
No, I conducted a debrief of my units that was assigned to my shift, but I was never debriefed by anyone.
Why did you conduct a debrief of the people in your command?
It's a common practice.
No, that's overruled. Go ahead, sir. You can answer the question.
It's a common practice when you go to a scene. That's how you get better at responding to stuff, by talking about what you've seen, what you observed, what you did. So we talk about it, so the next time the similar event occurs, you know what everyone should do and what you expect each other. It's not just so much for as a supervisor to direct them, it's the gentlemen on the shift and ladies on the shift to discuss it as well, so they can talk about the different positions and responsibilities.
I believe you told the prosecutor that hearing Deputy Kratz and others refer to the football field strengthened your belief.
Yes, sir.
That the shots were coming from the football field, correct?
Yes, sir.
But did you not tell me that when you arrived on scene and you initially heard those shots, without hearing anything from Kratz, you believed that they were coming from
the football field, yes.
So solely based upon the sound alone, before you hear anything on the radio, you believe that they were coming from the football field,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
And final question, there was nothing on the BSO radio that you were listening to that ever told you in real time that there was a shooter inside the 1200 building, correct?
No, sir, never.
So you didn't know that kids or adults were being killed,
No,
correct?
sir. No, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Based on that, any recross?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Just very briefly. You just testified that there was no dispatch call about shooter inside the 1200.
I did not hear that, sir. No.
You didn't hear when Mr. Peterson said inside 1200 over dispatch.
I thought you said, I thought the question was dispatch. I'm sorry.
Did you hear Mr. Peterson say inside 1200?
No, I don't recall. And at the time, I couldn't have told you what the 1200 building was.
Also on, I guess, recross, you were asked about setting up the perimeter. The priority during a shooting is to stop the shooting, though, and stop the bleeding, correct? It's not setting up a perimeter.
Are you talking my
No,
responsibility?
I'm talking
or
about as any BSO.
No, if you have real-time shooter shooting, yes, you are to stop the shooter if you can.
That's the priority, not stopping cars at an intersection.
If you know where the shooter is, no, you're right.
Even if you don't know the shooter, if you hear shots, you go to the shots.
If you know where the shots are, again, it'd be like if I was not going to be responsible for the perimeter, I would have went towards the football field.
If you heard shots.
The ones I did hear.
Got it. Nothing further.
All right, is the witness excused?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you may sit down. Thank you very much. While he's doing that, defense, you may call your next witness. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, real quick restroom break. Same admonition as always. Please don't discuss the facts of the case, the evidence, the witnesses, or the testimony amongst yourselves or anyone else. Till we reach the end of the trial, I'll tell you what that is. If you'll just leave the notepads in the chair, step in the back one moment. I'll be right with you. Thank you.
All right. We're live. My phone's ringing. Hang on. I'm reading a document drop. Hang on. Okay, sorry. Someone is leaving a message on the answer machine that's right there. It's right there. It's right down there. Anyway, so I had to silence my mic for just a little minute. Is it just my wishful thinking, or did that go bad for the state? It seems that these they haven't been able to gain a lot of very useful testimony from the defense witnesses. They seem to not be able to break them or twist. I won't say twist, because obviously they're trying to just elicit testimony that supports their case. But they have not been very successful in the first, 4 witnesses we've had? 3 or 4. Yes, restroom break seemed to be requested by the same person, the prosecutor who's wearing the running shoes. Apparently, it enables him to run to the restroom quicker. I'm not sleeping. I'm just looking down and reading. That's what it is. And this happens to be And let's see, County Court, El Paso County, Colorado. People of the State of Colorado versus Anderson Lee Aldrich, defendant. Yeah, and it's an amended decorum order. It's really insightful stuff. It has to do with media access. So I follow these things very closely. They didn't get much from their own witnesses. They're keeping the witnesses' testimony very limited. And I think that's an effective method of questioning, because that sort of limits how much cross they're going to get. If you ask them to talk about everything that went on in that day, they probably have some weird ideas. Any witness, if you ask them enough questions, might come up with something that's just bizarre, that they think is true or think is what happened. So you don't want them to just tell everything they know and go off on some conspiracy theory or something. They're calling to let me know the car warranty expired. Those warranties, I rarely find a good one. If the state wins this case, the can of worms that it potentially opens makes me very wary. Sorry, I can't say Diet Coke Mama. I cannot say very, very wary. It's like a fuzzy wuzzy type thing. If the state wins this case, the can of worms that it potentially opens makes me very wary. The whole trial should never have happened. Thank you, Diet Coke Mama, for that one. Multitasking, I'm trying. I'm also trying not to think about how much I need to pack before I drive out of state for a few days tomorrow morning. And probably, I think some of my stuff is still dirty from my camp out. I think all the clothes have been washed from the camp out. Mrs. R.A., that's all thanks to her. I've done almost none of that. I think I might have everything. I might need a rain jacket or something. Anyway, so multitasking, I'm failing at it miserably. Let's see where we go. Let's go right here. How do I find the burner phone number? I want to send you some info on the trial. Lori, just type !burner in chat anytime we're live, and it will respond with the burner phone number. That's a way to get it to me right there. Tish did it. Sharon did it as well. Anybody can do that, and it will respond with that. That's our current burner phone number. And it being a burner phone, it may one day get thrown away and a new number replace that. But right now, that's a number to reach me. Let's see. I'm a master at multi-procrastinating. In fact, I'm doing it right now, probably on several fronts, Jim Bob. It sounds like you are an expert. Could probably teach a class on that. Not today, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. But that would be very... sometime I might sign up for that. I'm not willing to commit right now, though. Thank you all. Appreciate that. Lori, I'll watch for that. I've got a ton of texts. I'll tell you, I'm way behind on the burner phone. I'm not sure if I will ever catch up. The rate that I get to text now is just insane. Thank you for the gifted memberships, by the way. The people who have been gifting memberships and even through a super chat in there as well. You guys are awesome. I appreciate that, making people feel welcome. Okay. I think we only had a 5-minute bathroom break on this one. So we're probably going to have maybe one more witness, is my guess. Possibly two. I'd be okay with one, because then I could start packing for tomorrow. But Melody, I got you a little earworm, a little fuzzy wuzzy was a bear thing. Sorry about that. There's a... I don't want to say it. Never mind. There's another YouTuber who uses that same term, and it's something completely different. Let me just say he traps hogs for a living. It's fun to see you behind the scenes. Don't see that often. Yes, this is my courtroom. It looks like this way, but when you turn around and look the other way, it looks like this. That's my background. Oops, sorry, my green screen's showing. We'll fix that. Perfect, right there. Yeah, it's. Just magic of YouTube happening right there. Dr. G should look at this judge's body language. This judge, I wish his speaking was a little bit more dynamic when it comes to pitch. He seems to be almost monotone a lot of times, which is hard for me to follow. But I honestly, even though I see him... he appears to be very biased when we look at the sustained objection count right there, 116 for the state. He seems to be leaning very strongly in favor of the state. The way he came out during the defense's motions for dismissal, basically, was so powerful in defense, saying, hey, look, state, you've got some serious issues here. You know, you're right on the line here. The defense might have a cause for moving forward, or to basically have this thrown out. Let's see. Tomorrow at noon, Matthew Harris is going to drop his weekly video. You should be subscribed to Matthew Harris, all of you, by now. Subscribe to his channel and make sure you have the bell rung so you can watch that as soon as it comes out. Better yet, when you watch it, make a comment. Tell him your favorite part or what you'd like him to do a video on next. He's actually very responsive. He gets a lot of ideas from some of you, and he makes some videos about that. So if there's a legal issue that you would love a lawyer to address that might help you out, I mean, look at it this way: free legal advice. How often do you get that? Here you have a lawyer who every single month, every single week gives you an update on some legal aspects that you can immediately take action on and incorporate into your life, whether it's hauling a dead body across state lines, whether it's, no, just kidding. He has some funny ones. But honestly, leave him some feedback and tell him what you'd like to hear him address. He just might do it for you. Let's see. Greeners, yes, you gave tons of memberships out. And Tracy L. was a recipient there, giving you a little thanks back. Appreciate that to Tracy and Greeners. He's wearing bowling shoes, says Veda, and not the running shoes. They definitely have like non-slip soles. We're not done for the day. Just a little bathroom break. Prosecution needs a quick little run to the little boys' room.
My advisor is present here outside the presence of the jury. State anything you need me to address before we resume the defense presentation.
No, Your Honor.
Defense, anything you need me to address?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, please bring the jury back.
Where's our bring the jury sound? Do we have the... Don't I have a bring the jury? Man, that's sad. I've got to have a jury. It's on the Alex Stollett page, I think. Too many pages of sound bites. Oh, there it is. I found it.
You will bring the jury.
Ah, love that voice. Listen to that.
You will bring the jury.
Not done for the day. We've got a little bit more to go. Let's see. I did get... I have a lot of messages. I have over 100 unread messages on the burner phone. Matthew Harris does have daily quizzes, law quizzes. If you study, this is what I hear. If you study and take and pass every one of his quizzes for a year, you get a free bar license. Is that how it happens, Matthew? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure you get like your honorary law degree if you get a year's worth of those quizzes right. See, I got an image from Debbie about a Matthew Harris can koozie. I'm not seeing the new one yet. Let's see. Didn't come through yet for some reason. Might take a minute. Who is it?
Jurors entering.
Come on in. Ashley, that's a horrible, horrible case. I don't know if we can do that. It's very hard to do cases with children. I realize this is a case where children were harmed. This is a little bit different
welcome back.
because of the nature of the trial.
Once you're back to those same seats, you may be seated.
I thought it would be different.
All the parties may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, when we took our quick restroom break, being in the middle of the defense presentation, we're going to resume at that point. Defense, when you are ready, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense calls Maximo Rosario. Maximo Rosario.
Maximo Rosario. Let me look at the witness list really quickly. Okay, this is going to be the MSD administrator and staff. Assistant principal, I think, is what we're going to have. Max Rosario. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 MSD, so Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School administrators or staff members on the list. That's different from the MSD security. It's different from the students.
Sir, if I could have you come all the way up here to the witness stand, please. Once you reach it, but before you have a seat, if you can just stop and look at me, please.
And it's different from the teachers.
Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Big school.
Please be seated. And once you're seated, if I can get you to scoot that chair all the way forward as far as it will go, can you please state your full name and spell your full name?
My name is Maximo Rosario, Maximo Rosario.
Mr. Agash, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor.
What's his
Good
time?
afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Tell the jurors what you do for a living.
Currently, I work for Broward County Public Schools as a Director of Technology Support Services.
How long have you been with Broward County Schools?
Around 24 years.
And did you ever work at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School?
I did.
In what capacity?
I was an assistant principal.
And were you employed as an assistant principal on the day of this horrible shooting?
I was.
And tell us what your interaction was with someone that you knew as Deputy Peterson, Scot Peterson.
Basically, I consulted with him whenever any law enforcement event had to be involved. We engaged in any security matters that dealt with the school.
And did you ever see him involved in breaking up any fights or disturbances?
I did, yes.
And tell the jurors about that.
Basically, if there were fights on occasion, either in the cafeteria, hallways, courtyards, things of that nature, we always had all hands on deck, including Deputy Peterson at the time, who was with us.
Was there ever any tasks that you asked him to do that for whatever reason he chose not to?
Not that I have any, no.
Any incidents where you saw him evidence any kind of cowardice, where he just didn't seem to be courageous?
No.
Just the opposite?
The opposite to me. Always responded whenever I called.
And you were an assistant principal at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas for how many years prior to the shooting?
Over 10 years.
Okay. So tell us about hearing the fire alarm. And we're talking about there was one earlier, correct?
I believe so, but I don't recall.
Okay.
The one earlier, I believe there was, but I don't recall that particular alarm. But I know that in the afternoon I did hear an alarm. I was at guidance at the time, going over some events from the previous nights.
What building were you in?
Building 1.
The 100 building?
The 100 building, yes.
All right. And tell us what happened.
Heard the fire alarm. I was not in my office, but I had left my keys and my radio in my office. I went by my office, picked up my radio and keys, got on my golf cart, and before I went into the golf cart, though, I went to the annunciator panel, which is where it tells us where the alarm was coming from.
And the radio you had was a school radio?
Yes.
And numerous people have school radios,
yes.
Correct? If you wanted to compile a list of all the people at school radios, would that be something that could be done?
Sure, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what's the next thing that you did?
I went and took a look at where the panel, the annunciator panel was, where the alarm was coming from. I identified as the 1200 building, and I headed to go in that direction.
Did you make any announcements on your school radio after understanding that the fire alarm was indicating 1200 building?
No, I did not.
Nor did you have contact with my client at that point, correct?
I did not, no.
Right, what's the next thing that happened?
I went on my golf cart and headed towards the 1200 building, where I then parked the golf cart out of the way so that I can then help the students evacuate the building as protocol calls for when we evacuate for a fire drill.
What side of the building did you pull up to?
So I was near the 700 building, right underneath the walkway that was there, near this staircase that goes up to the second floor. I'm there out of the way so the students have access into the courtyard and out to where the evacuation routes were.
Okay, and then what's the next thing that happened?
I went into the courtyard. I was proceeding to go into closer to the 1200 building. I stopped at that moment. because I heard some loud noises, and I also heard a code red being called over the radio.
All right, we'll take those one step at a time. Where were you when you heard some shots fired?
So I was near the fence, in between the 1200 building and what we call the PE courtyard, or that 900, PE courtyard basically. It's called the 700 building, right outside of the gym area.
Can I ask, first we'll start with the map that is Defense F. Can you just take a look at that and see if you can identify roughly where you were?
That map has everybody's
So
DNA
it's in
on
this
it.
area right here. Let's see. Yep, right here. That's the courtyard right here. This is the staircase. That area, this is a fenced area. This is the 1200 building. So I was in that area there, right in between that walkway.
That would actually be west of the 1200 building.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. I think you might have said east earlier. Did you mean to say west? I don't know. Maybe I
don't think I said east, but it is on the west side of the building.
It's getting late. Okay, so it's definitely the west side,
Yes.
correct? And if you could again put your finger where you were when you heard shots.
I was in this area right here.
Okay, thank you. So that would be between the 12 and 1300 building, correct?
More so towards, yes, pretty much in between those two areas, but right before it, right?
And how close did you get to the 1200 building before you heard shots?
About 30 feet.
Could you see anybody on the ground?
No.
And do you recognize what's in this photograph that's been marked as, actually it's in evidence as Defense 1. Do you recognize this photograph?
I do.
Okay, and what is that in relation to where you were?
So that is the west side entrance to the 1200 building, right outside. I'm sorry, right outside the admin office.
All right. And is this the side of the building that you approached? when you
So
heard shots?
I was opposite. So if this is the building here, I was more toward this way.
Okay. But this is the side of the building that you were on.
That's correct. Yep.
That always cracks me up when they try to
You had
identify
gotten off
the
of
picture.
your golf
It has a big
cart,
title
correct?
on it.
Yes.
And you were approaching the building, correct?
Yes.
And how many shots did you hear, approximately?
Approximately 5 or 6.
Okay. Did you recognize them as gunfire right away?
Not right away. No.
What did you think that they might have been?
Just loud cracking noises, and then eventually it hit me as if it was gunfire.
And do you have any experience ever hearing gunfire?
I have.
Tell the jurors about that.
I have a permit, and I've gone to the range. I do go to the range on occasion. I've had a permit from prior moving to Florida. So in New York City, I had a permit.
What kind of permit?
It was in New York City was a semi-concealed weapon carry for a semi-automatic handgun.
So even though you've had a lot of experience with gunfire and utilizing guns, at first when you hear the shots, are you saying you didn't recognize right away with certainty that was gunfire?
That's correct. I did not.
Did you have a thought as to what you thought it might be?
Originally, when we were responding, we thought it was firecrackers that were going off in the building, and that's what I was assuming it was originally.
And when you were standing approximately 30 feet from the 1200 building, to the west side of the 1200 building, where did you believe those shots were coming from?
So I believe it was coming from behind me, because at that point my back was towards the 1200 building. I was facing the 700 building. I believe it was coming from behind me.
Okay.
However, I couldn't really pinpoint where exactly behind me it was.
Okay. Did you think that they were coming from inside or outside, or both?
I couldn't tell.
So what was in play first was possibly inside or outside, correct?
Could be. Yeah.
And if you could show us on this map what possibly could have been the area that you thought the shots were coming from, okay? Include every possibility.
So I was standing in this area right here, as I stated earlier. It could have been coming from this area. I'm not, precisely don't know where they're coming from. I'm standing here, and my back was towards that area, so I'm facing this way.
I'm going to need to describe what you just said for the record, and maybe you can help me, because it won't show this, that.
Okay.
So first, point to the first place that you said the shots could have been coming from.
So I believe it could have been from this back area here, which is the 1300 building.
All right, so you're pointing to the 1300 building. Let's start there. Did you know whether it was coming from inside the 1300 building or outside?
I couldn't tell.
Could you tell whether it was coming from the roof or from a particular floor?
Could not tell you.
Could you tell whether it was coming from the north side of the 1300 building?
No.
The west side of the 1300 building?
No.
The east side?
No.
The whatever side that I didn't say because I'm getting tired?
That's the south.
That's
No.
the south side, yes.
No.
You couldn't tell. That was a possibility, correct? Did you also consider that it could have been coming from the parking lot area?
Well, I didn't think that far ahead, but it could have been coming from anywhere, right? I really couldn't point specifically where the shots. I just know something was from behind me.
So you couldn't rule out the parking lot, correct?
Me, no.
All right. And this parking lot area, okay, this is what they call the senior lot?
That's correct.
How many cars does it hold approximately? Do you know?
About 500.
So this is a massive, large lot, correct?
It is. Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, it is.
All right. Did you also think that the shot, since you were standing over here and it was behind you?
So I was standing over here.
Oh, that's correct. Did you also consider it could be in this courtyard area between the 12 and 1300 building?
Sure.
Yes? And you couldn't tell whether it was extended northbound or south or east, west?
No, I could not tell you.
Okay. Also, it could have been 1200 building, correct?
Correct. I couldn't tell you.
Could it have been any sides of the 1200 building that you heard shots from?
Again, I couldn't identify where they were coming from.
I understand.
Mm-hmm.
So let me summarize that. I don't think you could tell where the shots were coming from. That's what I gathered.
Did you ever hear anyone order a code red?
I did.
Who did you hear order a code red?
So over the radio, I heard Mr. Morford call a call red.
You recognize his voice, correct?
I did.
Did you ever see any kids come out of neighboring buildings?
So the students were starting to come out of the 700 building, and the bottom part of that, which is connected to what we call the 500, 600 area. So students were coming out of that area because there are 3 buildings connected to each other.
Approximately, maybe you can't give an exact number, approximately how many students were coming out of the 700 and the connecting 500 building?
So so classrooms were evacuated. When you talk about classrooms, you're talking about 25, 30 students per class that are coming out of that area. So I would say anywhere between, and in my visibility, there was maybe 5 or 6 classrooms there, so I'm seeing a crowd of students, maybe 60, 70, 80 students coming out of that area.
How many total? I didn't hear you. How many
So
total?
what I saw was about 60 or to 70 or 80 students coming out because they evacuated those buildings, but that whole building houses close to 20 classrooms.
Okay. So how many total students, both combining the 700 and you said the adjoining
The 500 building, which is right below it. So
and how many students are we talking about?
anywhere between 600 to 1,000 students can be in that building.
Okay. Were you ever asked to compile a list of all the students that came out of the buildings?
No, it was not.
Is that something that could be done by going to the office and printing out who?
It's a matter of a master schedule, yes.
Okay. When you heard the shots and you didn't know where they were coming from, did you look around?
I did.
And could you tell by looking around where they were coming from?
I could not.
You didn't see any smoke?
I did not, no.
You didn't see any blood?
No, I did not.
You didn't smell anything that led you to believe it was coming from the 1200 building?
I did not.
You didn't see any kids running out of buildings other than the ones that...
not the 1200 building. I was seeing students coming out of the 700 building.
Got it. Have you ever experienced an echo in that area before?
Yes.
Describe for the jurors first, before the shooting, what you experienced.
So that's a courtyard. So during passing, you can hear it's very loud. There's a very loud underneath the staircase because it's a covered walkway, and it's a courtyard. So the noise does get trapped in that area.
Okay. And on the day of the shooting, that also would have been in play, correct?
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with your hearing, is there?
No.
After the first shots that you heard, did you ever hear any additional shots?
I only heard the 5 to 6 shots that I mentioned earlier.
You never saw any muzzle flashes, correct?
I did not.
Never saw any bullets coming out of windows or anything?
I did not.
Did you ever see my client during the shooting?
I did.
And what did you see?
I saw Deputy Peterson standing at the other side of where I was originally.
That was considerably far from you, correct?
It was at the end of the 1200 building on the east side of that, opposite of that east entrance of the 1200 building.
And what did you see him doing, sir?
I saw him leaning against, I guess, a column that was there. I believe his hands were occupied with his radio, but I couldn't tell what was in his hands. I know he was one hand was leaning on his shoulder here, and he seemed to be leaning towards that, and then he has something else in his hand. I just couldn't identify what that other item was.
One final question. If in that moment, when you heard those shots, and someone told you, go precisely where those shots were, could you have done that?
Objection is speculation, Your Honor.
No, that's overruled. So I don't want you to guess, but if you can answer the question based on your personal...
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. In that moment, thinking back, when you heard the shots, if someone had said, go towards the shots, could you have identified precisely where those shots were coming from?
No, I couldn't.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming in.
Cross-examination, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Rosario.
How's it going?
May I speak quickly? If you need me to slow down, you'll let me know, okay?
I guess he just doesn't know how to introduce himself.
All right, so let's go back to the 14th of February 2018. Scot Peterson's the school resource officer at MSD, correct?
That's correct.
What are his daily tasks?
Basically, he comes in the morning. He would assist with traffic, as we all do. We all had our different, stations where we were located. Some of them had coverages in different areas. I recall him covering traffic in the morning along with other police officers and crossing guards and things of that nature. Then he would come in and he would either meet with parents or assist administrators throughout the day.
What does that mean, assist administrators?
If there were any cases where we needed to consult with Deputy Peterson at the time regarding anything that included some infraction by a student.
So not necessarily crimes, also infractions.
Well, only if they dealt with crimes. We did it if it was a school discipline nature only, then we wouldn't consult with him. Only if it was something to deal with law enforcement.
Okay. So he would also be responsible, like if kids were vaping.
Correct. That could have been if that's an infraction that's covered in our code of student conduct, right? But if it was an actual crime, then we would consult with him at that time. So if there was a vaping event, and we will consult with him in that situation.
Consult with him. What if there's like a minor
Vaping
traffic
event?
crash in the parking lot?
He will also assist with that as well.
Anything else off the top of your head? His daily tasks that he would do?
I know he helped during class changes. He will go out during the class changes as well. He will be standing out there either in the courtyard or in the front office, or if the front office needed him for whatever reason. Those are the kind of things that I do.
To make sure students get to their classes before
Correct, and orderly, correct.
So like almost like truancy type issues?
I wouldn't say truancy, but just making sure that that students are moving from one class to the next in an orderly fashion without any disturbances with each other.
So now, fire alarm goes off, and you went to the panel. I can't say the word.
Enunciator panel, I know. I struggle with it too. So.
Where is that panel?
That panel is actually located in what we had as Deputy Peterson's office.
So it's in Mr. Peterson's office?
Yes.
And that's the only panel in the school?
That's the only panel that I recall.
Okay.
Yes.
And on that panel, if you could just describe for the jury, what does the panel look like?
It's a set of numbers and what we call fish numbers, which are your classrooms, plus a little light next to those areas. That is pretty much like a map of the school that shows you where that particular fire alarm was triggered from.
So when the fire alarm is triggered, it would say, for instance, 1200 building.
It would indicate the 1200 building.
Okay. And did it also say something like gas that day?
I don't recall if it said gas or not.
Now, I know Mr. Aguilar showed you this map. I'd like to use this one. I'm showing you what states 1. Now, your screen is actually interactive, and you can draw on it. Your Honor, if I can be an annotator. Scroll in just a touch. So you can actually mark the spot with your finger.
Okay.
Okay. So when you hear the fire alarm go off, where are you?
So I'm in building 1.
Can you just mark that with an X approximately where you were?
This is building 1 right here.
Okay. So you get into the golf cart, and which route do you drive?
So I go across the main courtyard, what we call the main courtyard, which is through here, across that way.
And did you park where you ended that line?
I park right alongside that area there, which is, it's hard to see the map, but there's a staircase there because of the cover, right alongside that staircase.
Okay. And that's your assigned area for fire
Yes.
alarms? Okay. Now, when you're standing there, you hear shots, you hear the loud noises.
So once I get off the golf cart, I came over to this area a little bit further out, which is this area right here, right by, there's a fence there, right? A fence with a gate. So I stopped at that area there, so I can visualize the traffic flow both from the both ends here and this area coming to me from the students. So that's where I stopped and heard the gunfire.
And you're facing south, you're facing away.
And I'm facing the building, correct.
You said building. So
I'm facing the 700 building away from the 1200 building.
Where you stopped, you approximated that at about 30 feet?
I approximate about 30 feet.
Could it be more than that?
It could be.
Okay. Now, when you got up there after the fire alarm, did you look to the west side doors of the building?
So there's a bush there. I had no visibility to the door.
So if Aaron Feist was on the ground at that point in time, you wouldn't have been able to see him?
No.
Not from your vantage point?
Not from my vantage point.
Now, after you hear the shots, it's not part of your job responsibility to investigate the location of the shots, is it?
No.
What is your responsibility during a code red?
So during a code red is to ensure that the students and staff are secured behind a locked door and then get myself secured behind a locked door.
And you did that day?
So I didn't get myself secured behind a locked door. I did get the students back into this building. I did hear another radio call come in after the code red where another assistant principal had students out in the field by the 900 building.
Can you just mark where that is?
Sure. So the 900 building is right here. And she has students in this area here all out of the building.
Okay.
Right, and that building houses, again, approximately about another 800 to 1,000 students, 800 to about 1,000 students in that area.
So that's where a lot of the students went after the fire alarm /
So that building had evacuated, right, completely. And the other assistant principal, Ms. Figueroa, had called over radio that she was outside. She wanted more indication. At that time, I indicated that to hang tight. I got my students secure that I was going to head over along with the head custodian that was in the courtyard in the area with me as well. We both went out to that area to assist her with the students and not bring the students back. We evacuated the students over to West Glade.
To West Glade, so you evacuated them west. That's
right.
The person with you was the head custodian, Ed Suarez?
Yeah, Ed Suarez, yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, over the radio, you heard Jeff Morford announce the code red.
Correct.
You never heard Scot Peterson announce the code red.
I did not, no.
Now, you said on direct, the sound was kind of trapped in the courtyard. Which courtyard are you talking about?
So this is called the PE courtyard, which is, so this is the gym. This building right here is the gym, right? This is the 700 building right here. This is the 500 building, and in here is a courtyard with a staircase. So it's like an open, smaller courtyard. There's a main courtyard where I cut across that big one. This here is the main courtyard.
So
right?
I'm sorry.
So I was standing in the smaller courtyard, which is what we call the PE courtyard.
And where, Mark, did you see Scot Peterson standing?
So Scot Peterson, I saw him standing. Now the trees blocks it a little bit, but he was outside around this area here.
Now, after you secured the students in the 500 building, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
You then moved south with Mr. Suarez.
I then moved towards the 900 building south. That's correct.
How long would you estimate, and you can just estimate this, were you in the position facing south to help the students after the shots? Ballpark.
5 to 7 minutes.
When you saw Scot Peterson, where was he looking?
He was facing the 1200 building.
And the shots, they were loud?
They were.
Assistant principal, what were you the assistant principal of?
So I was in charge of seniors and guidance, math, and the career technical education program.
So different APs, different assistant principals have different tasks.
That's correct.
Assignments. Okay. As part of your assignment, did you attend a class in January of 2018 in regards to code reds?
I did.
Was Mr. Peterson there?
I believe all security staff was there, yes, including Deputy Pearson, yes.
And at that class, what were you taught to do in your position?
So under Code Red, we were taught to lock down, secure the building, and then wait for law enforcement to come in and take over the situation. We basically just ensured that the building was locked down.
And law enforcement will take care of any shooters if it's an active shooter situation?
So for me, law enforcement takes care of the situation after that. Yes, once we're locked down, we are not, Code Red for us means no mobility, right? Lock down, stay behind closed door until you hear further from law enforcement.
Now, after you went to West Glades with the students, you actually went back to MSD later that day, right?
So it was about, yes, later in the evening. It was about 5, 6 o'clock in the evening that I was returned back to MSD.
Because you were like the IT guru.
Correct.
So part of your responsibility, or what you were asked to do, was basically download the videos that we've seen.
Correct. That's correct.
And on campus, the school resource officer is the only person with a gun, correct?
Correct.
At any point in time during the 5 to 7 minutes that you were, I guess, herding the students back into the 500, at any point in time did you turn around to face the 1200 building?
Briefly, I don't think I might have just looked back.
Like kind of glance back, as opposed
Yes.
to you didn't position your entire body around?
I did not. Most of the time I was facing the 700 building.
And when you were, let's say, herding them back, I'm just going to erase this for a second. Where were you standing? Were you standing in the same spot that you were?
So I was a little bit.
For you, let it get a little bit clearer, hopefully. There we go.
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a fence right here. So once I was herding the students back, I was a little bit further in. So I was like in this area right here. That's like in the center of the courtyard itself. There's a staircase. This is the opening of the staircase. It's a staircase there. And then there's an open walkway right above here. So if you go across here, this is actually a walkway where students come out of the classrooms, they walk in that area, and then they head towards the staircase. So they have visibility to me, and I have visibility to them.
So any student going down that staircase or on that walkway, you were telling
Correct.
To get away?
To get back and lock themselves down into the
And
classroom.
you were locking the classroom. Did any of them flee south?
So all the students I saw them go back into the classroom.
It might be done here, a little bit more redirect.
I have nothing further from Mr. Rosario. Thank you, Mitch. Thank you, Mr. Rosario.
Based on that, we redirect.
Just one question.
Go ahead.
At any time during the time that you're here in this area by the 1200 building, including the time where you glance back and you're looking at the 1200 building, was there any evidence to you in real time that there was a shooter inside the 1200 building shooting children?
Not to me, no.
No, correct?
Not to me, no.
Thank you.
Based on that, we recross.
Just one question. Was it your job to identify where an active shooter was
No,
on
sir.
Marjorie Stoneman Douglas campus?
No, sir.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, is the witness excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, sir, you may step down. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, based on the time, we'll press pause on the trial at this point.
Pressing
A
pause
little
on the
bit of a
trial.
different schedule going forward tomorrow, only because of some other matters that I have to handle, which have nothing to do with this trial. I don't want you waiting around for me in the morning, so you're going to have the morning back at your normal lives. What I'm going to ask you to do is tomorrow, which is Thursday, June 22nd, eat lunch on your own, and I'm going to ask you to be at the jury room at 12:30 p.m. 12:30 p.m., and then we're just going to go through the work for the afternoon tomorrow. Okay, and again, that's so you're not waiting for me while I'm handling other matters which have nothing to do with this trial. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, same admonition as always. Please do not discuss the facts of the case, the evidence, the witnesses, or the testimony amongst yourselves or anyone else. Please do not do any research on the case. I'm going to ask you to continue to not watch the news, do not read the newspaper. If you will leave the notepads in your chairs, they will be waiting for you when you come back. Have a good night. I will see you tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. 12:30 p.m. in the jury room.
Let's give them a minute to leave, see if there's anything that they want to discuss, possibly give us an insight into schedule tomorrow. For those of you that are going to be watching, the judge has some stuff in the morning, right? So he's going to start a little bit later. I'm enjoying my wheat thins. These are fantastic.
Okay, we're outside the presence of the jury. State, anything you need me to address before we recess the trial until tomorrow? Defense, anything you need me to address?
Thank you.
Okay, so the trial will be in recess until tomorrow, which is Thursday, June 22nd at 12:30 p.m. Division FX will be in recess until tomorrow, Thursday, June 22nd at 8:45 a.m. I hope you all have a good rest of your night. All right, now, that is it.
That is it. That's how he ends it. That is it. Over and out. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually kill their audio because nothing exciting is going to happen now that the judge is off the bench. At least nothing that we should be listening to. Let's bring this over. Hold tight. Let me get this fixed. Let's get rid of this. And let's go here and bring this over here. Where's my other one? Where's my other window? I wanted to show you the witness list that we're dealing with for the defense. And thank you. You can find this on Discord. I highly recommend it. I'm just going to give you a quick peek. Nothing you can really refer to a lot. Let's see. Is this the right one? Hold tight. I think so. Why is the... Okay. Anyway. All right. I think this is it. Why it has a better watermark that's not showing up. Look, I can see part of it. There's a cool gavel and everything on here. It just did not show up when it transferred over. But this is from the As the Gavel Drops Discord page. Highly recommend you go over there and find this yourself. This is an older list. This is from December of 2023. So we've got, 5-6 months ago was when this was filed. It may have changed since then a little bit, or they've made some adjustments to this. The FDLE, you've got this law enforcement, the 4 people here. You've got the Pinellas, I don't even know how to say this county, Sheriff's Office. You've got 2 people there. Coral Springs Police, we have a whole list, all the way from Officer Richard Best. We've heard about him. A couple other people, sergeants, captains, officers, sergeants, detectives, officers, sergeant, captain, chief, Tony, chief's a big one, Chief Perry, that's another big one. You got Sunrise Police Department, you've got the MSD Security on here. We've already heard from who? Was it Medina we already heard from? We heard from Greenleaf. I think that was on prosecution side, though. Then you've got the MSD administrators and staff. We just heard from Max Rosario. From that on that list. As far as the MSD students, we heard from Melanie Weber. She's the one that just went to school. I think we also heard from one more. Wasn't there another one? Let's see who he was. Off the top of my head, I don't recall. Okay, we've got Detective Alfred Butler from the Broward School District Police. We've got 2 expert witnesses on the list, Philip Hayden and Christopher Grolnick. They're probably going to call both of those. Experts, you're somebody you pay for. And then within the Broward Sheriff's Office, you've got a whole list of people that are available, including some that are on SWAT, some that are retired, some deputies, all that. And then back down here on the teachers, we already heard from, let's see which one, Susan Campbell. We heard she was one of the first witnesses from the teachers list. So that's where we are. We've got a few pages of people, a lot a lot of stuff still yet to come in this trial, so I don't think we're going to be done with this before I come back. I will say tomorrow, I really like one of the news channels that is airing this. They seem to have better audio than some of the bigger channels that are out there. Let's see. So let's see. The best place to go. Let's see. Let me see if I can find that for you. This is assuming you don't want to join one of our friends, say like Brandy, over on her trial for a day or two and just catch up on what's happening with the Melly trial, which would also be a welcome thing to do. Let me check my history. There we go. WSVN TV. Let's see if I can make a link for you. This is Local 7 News out of Miami. They seem to have a pretty good feed for you. So let me put this up here. This is one you might want to just write down. There we go. You might want to just write that down. WSVN 7 News Miami, a local news station that is carrying this. Uncivil Law is covering it too. He does get into some areas that we don't. So, I mean, if you're looking for a different sort of coverage, recommend that. Kurt, I like Kurt myself. Just if that's what you'd like, I'd recommend that as well. Brandy's obviously covering her trial with Melly. I watched WSVN while RA was out last week. I think they have one of the better audio feeds. I will ask that you please keep track of the objection counter. We're currently at 116. 116. So, let's see, WKRP is WKRP airing this as well? Oh, sorry, WKRP. I know what WKRP is. I think that's a joke. I'm going to Virginia tomorrow. I'll be out. Is it okay to recommend another YouTuber? I love recommending other YouTubers, Kelly. Who do you have that you'd recommend? I realize I can't vouch for everybody. So if I say, hey, go over to Kurt or go over to Brandy or go over to, Weather Watch or Matthew or whoever's doing a live stream, I can't 100% say that everything you listen to over there is something that would fall in lines with what we do here. Everybody's a little bit different. And they have their rights to run their channel the way they want. But I can, that's WKRP was funny. I caught it this time. Last time I missed it. Anyway, Brandy has a guest tonight, 7 a.m. or 7 Eastern time, that's been tweeting from the trial. That would be awesome. That might be worth taking a quick listen to. We've got a few 13th jurors over here, or 13th addicts, as we call them, that sort of cross back and forth. Jill, tomorrow you've got a half day in this court, and then Friday you've got a full day. Recommendation does not equal endorsement. Yes, I need that on my little, what is it? What is it? It's not an epitaph. That's like what's on your gravestone. What is it called when you on your little about your channel thing? It's almost like an epitaph. Let's see. I went over to the TV station and subscribed. That's great. They do a great job. I did mention Kurt already. Yep. I would. I think it's polite. Let me just say. First of all, I appreciate you asking. I think it's polite to always ask the channel host before you go in and recommend that people go other places. I know other channels would take that. Could take that as being offensive. It might even get you to banned or silenced on a channel. I appreciate you asking me first. I'd feel a little offended if people came in here and said, "Hey, everybody, you should go somewhere else." I don't know how else to take that, But I do want you guys to be able to watch this. Will I be back in Friday? Unfortunately, no. I'll be back on Monday. I can't devote your life 24/7 to us. Fine. So close. Kurt is Uncivil Law on YouTube. He was actually the first person to subscribe to my channel that had over, I think, 100,000. I think it's 100,000 subscribers. Because his name showed up as like in bold when he was typing. I'm like, what? Why? How did you get your name to look like that? And it's like, oh, it's because he's a big channel. But Uncivil Law, that's where Kurt is. He does get into more political stuff. He will venture into waters that I do not. He is a lawyer, so he'll have his opinions he'll be sharing there, and that'll give you an option to watch that as well. He does talk over the testimony. I try not to do that as much, but we all have to a little bit. But we'll try. All right, so let me unpin that message. I think that's it. I think now all I need to do is rush and get packed for tomorrow morning and then get out of here. When the RA bat signal flies, we come. Thank you, Cachette. Cachette, I'd love to see if you could do anything with my little rants today. I think I had 3 of them. One of them had the geography lesson in it. Let me know if that goes somewhere. You guys are so creative. Am I going to go visit JT Brew Crime? Is he on right now? I probably not, Kelly. As much as I would love to go hang out with him just for a minute, I have to get a whole bunch of stuff ready, and I'm in charge. I'm in charge of this youth group, a group of youths for several days, and I basically have to make sure they get fed, watered, and let out to pasture or whatever constantly, and keep them safe and make sure they don't, cause mayhem or damage the college or lose their room keys, which cost $85 each. If they lose their room key, I think it's just like a credit card key to get in the dorm room, which we're staying in. If they lose it, it's $85. I think that's because they have to change the lock or something. I'm not sure. It must not be a credit card one. It must be an actual key. Yes, it's going to have fun. Drive carefully. Enjoy your time. Thank you. We'll see you next week. Yep, we'll do that. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up here. So we're going to play some music. This music right here specifically. Thank you all. It's been fun. I'm looking forward to seeing what else happens. The judge has surprised me a little bit today. I think we have more surprises in store. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Should we wish you luck or patience? A little bit of both would probably go a long way at this point. If you need more legal content, do check out Matthew Harris Law. You can type Matthew, !Matthew in chat anytime you get a link to that. Head over to his YouTube channel. Thank you very much, Matthew. Appreciate the great work you do as a mod, as well as all our mods. Just absolutely fantastic individuals. The work they do behind the scenes to make things go smoothly, it's unbelievable. And they're hilarious, they're witty, it's fun. Anyway, thank you all. Tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love, smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better. And please stay safe till we go live again, which will be next week. Oh my goodness. Yes, don't forget tomorrow, 5 p.m., Dr. G. Put this on your calendar. I'd love to see this. He's going to do a live, Dr. G live. I'd love to see him. He's been live on the channel 3 or 4 times already. We'll probably have him again soon. But catching him on his channel live, that would be awesome. Just be able to catch some questions about his new class about reading body language, which we all are quite interested in. Tomorrow's video is you're probably in the secret militia you've never heard of. I can't wait to see this, Matthew. That's going to be great. Thank you very much. Take care, everyone. Thank you for all the generous donations. Hey, look at this. My wife's here. I'm going to go say hi to her. I need Matthew Harris to teach me how to name videos, clearly. And then I need my wife to teach me how to make thumbnails, because I'm not very good at it. All right, guys, have a good one. Have a good one. We'll see you guys later. Don't go.